Good evening. Happy New Year. Nice to see so many faces here tonight. This meeting is now reconvened to open session. The board would like to remind the public that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. It is also available via live stream for the public through links found on the front page of the RUSD website. Tonight we have Kylie Johnson from Victory High School as our student board representative. Kylie, will you please introduce the color guard and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the colors by Rocklin Unified School District's Junior ROTC Color Guard and the Pledge of Allegiance. The commander and U.S. flag bearer for this evening's color guard is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Sophia Burkhalter. The state flag is carried by Cadet Captain Aiden Foster. Right guard is Cadet Master Sergeant Orion Terhune. Left guard is Cadet Airman Basic Bogdan Klimanov. Alternate for tonight is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Manning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the respectful way they handle our flag each meeting. We'll now move to item 5.1, our special recognition presentation portion of the meeting. Chief Dosage, will you please introduce our family partners in education recognition tonight?
Good evening, President Price, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. The Family Partners in Education program allows the Rocklin Unified School District to recognize family engagement and involvement to help our students achieve excellence during the school year. Whitney High School Principal Scott Collins is introducing the Detner family for tonight's Family Partners in Education recognition.
Board of Trustees, I am very pleased to introduce the Detner family. We've got Debbie, Todd, Meadow, and Brooke over here. They have been a cornerstone of our school community, with Debbie Detner leading the way through her tireless dedication and impactful work as a leader of the Parent Club. Debbie has been instrumental in fostering a strong sense of community, organizing initiatives that support students and staff alike. Her contributions as the aquatics photographer, and if you've ever been on the pool deck, you can't miss her, taking wonderful pictures out there, have gone beyond simply capturing moments. Her images celebrate the spirit, teamwork, and achievements of our athletes. Additionally, Debbie has been a steadfast supporter of the theater program, ensuring its success by volunteering her time and energy behind the scenes, helping to create memorable performances for students and families. Debbie's example of service and dedication is reflected in her daughters, Meadow and Brooke, who have made their own mark on our school. As leaders in the student leadership program, they have inspired peers with their commitment to inclusivity and school spirit. On the aquatics team, they have demonstrated discipline, teamwork, and perseverance, both in competition and in support of their teammates. Meadow's talents also shine in the theater program, where her performances bring energy and creativity to the stage, enriching the school's cultural life. Together, the Detner family exemplifies the values of dedication, teamwork, and community spirit. Debbie's remarkable contributions, combined with her daughter's active involvement in leadership, athletics, and the arts, have left an indelible impact on our school. It is an honor for me to recognize the Detners for their unwavering commitment to making our community stronger and more vibrant.
You guys get to come right up front. So this is really special for me personally because Debbie and I have kids that have aligned, and so I think we've served together maybe since 2006 was my guess. So yeah, every field trip, every yearbook, so many things, both of us with our cameras, you never without yours. And I just really am, I knew wherever Debbie's kids ended up, that school would be so greatly blessed by their contributions. And wherever Debbie is, you know she's got her camera, and you know she's there to serve, and whatever her kids are involved in, those programs, man, the contribution is huge. And our community, Whitney High School, Rocklin Unified, on behalf of the board, is so, so lucky to have you and all of the time and efforts that you selflessly give. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah. Okay, this is kind of fun. We have Panera, and I can say it, right? You guys get a dozen bagels every month for a year. I know.
What day do they come?
Seriously, ask her. I know. There you go. How fun is that? Okay, we're gonna go take a photo. Yeah. Chief Dosage, will you now please introduce our employee recognition tonight?
President Price, trustees, and superintendent Stock. Tonight for our employee recognition, the Rocklin Alternative Education Center's principal, Scott Hutton, will join us in introducing Kathy Nevins.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's loud enough. You can sit wherever you like. It's quite all right. Good evening, President Price, trustees, Superintendent Stock. I always enjoy presenting to you. To me, it's a tremendous honor. But tonight, because of this particular recognition, I feel like it's extra special. This is my dear friend and colleague, Kathy Nevins. And Kathy, she's exceptional in so many ways. Tonight, I have the opportunity to not only share with you her tremendous tenure within our district, but also the accomplishments that she provided for our students throughout. And then, I hope she doesn't mind me saying it, but I also have the honor of recognizing her because she has finally decided that she is officially retiring at the end of the year. So please, join me, will you please, everybody? Wait till you hear why this is so awesome. So Kathy has dedicated the past 24 years of her life to education, all of which she spent enriching the lives of Rocklin Unified School District students, specifically at the Rocklin Alternative Education Center. Kathy joined Rocklin Unified in July of 2000 as a library aide for the newly opened Alternative Education Center. The following school year, Kathy was hired as a part-time independent study teacher, and for the next 5 years served both roles. In 2016, Kathy became a full-time teacher and since has consistently provided rigorous lesson content across multiple, and when I say multiple, all of them, multiple grade levels, while maintaining an environment where students think critically, work collaboratively, and grow academically. Furthermore, Kathy was instrumental in developing and achieving the first WASC accreditation, and in high school that's a very big deal, as well as chairing subsequent renewals. In the early years, Kathy coordinated all of the A through G course submissions and has developed curriculum for many grade levels for a variety of courses. Now, you probably have heard me say this before, but students seeking alternative education do so for a variety of reasons. Yet one of the things that I love most about Kathy is no matter their situation, she works tirelessly to understand their individual behaviors, talents, and varying learning styles. Coupled with her compassion, and consistent practice of listening for understanding, Kathy has the innate ability to establish a rapport with students that directly correlate to a socially and emotionally safe, academically productive learning environment. Recently, one of Kathy's students commented, "Before coming to RAAC, I felt hopeless. Then I met Mrs. Nevins, who spent as much time getting to know me as she did helping me to learn. As I look towards graduation this year, not only am I hopeful, but I am inspired." And then another RAAC student shared, "As a senior, I have been a student of many teachers, but none have worked so hard to ensure my success." That is the epitome of Kathy Nevins. I know I speak for everybody at the Rocklin Alternative Education Center when I say thank you, Kathy, for all that you have done for not just Rocklin Unified, but for the Rocklin Alternative Education Center. Come on, give me some love. I will tell you.
Kathy, it is such an honor to recognize you tonight. You have been such a blessing in our district. I can't believe all that you've done in these 24 years and all the students that you've helped. It is an amazing thing that you've done for our district and that you've done for these students and the lives that you've changed. I am honored to give you this certificate, and you have a lot of bagels to share.
Steve, Allison, come on up. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to both of you, and thank you for your service and for bringing your families and your colleagues here. We know you have busy lives, so now would be an okay time if you'd like to go. Okay, we are now going to move to item 6.1. We'll hear from our CSEA President, Bettina Hart, to present the CSEA report.
Good evening, President Price, members of the board, Superintendent Stock, and Cabinet. Tonight marks a special milestone for me. Exactly 1 year ago this month, I stood here to deliver my very first speech as CSA President. Here it is. I found it. Yeah, I have it. I stood here to deliver my very first speech. I still remember how nervous I felt, my voice shaking as I tried to make eye contact with you all, pacing myself so I wouldn't speak too quickly, which I did anyway. I even called my brother beforehand, practicing to ensure I got everything just right, especially previous President Sathoff's name, which I'm pretty sure that I stumbled. Despite those nerves, my primary goal that evening was clear: to recognize the incredible dedication of our CSEA members, their commitment to supporting not only students, but also the teachers and administrators of our district. That goal has continued to guide me throughout my first year as president. As I reflect on this past year, I'm proud of what we have accomplished as a union. My vision was to foster growth and unity throughout our organization, ensuring that every member felt valued and heard. I wanted to strengthen our executive board, and today we are closer to being complete, with a first vice president, a second vice president, and a communications officer joining us. Our union has grown to over 300 members, with 5 stewards and a group of site representatives working together to amplify our voice. The progress is a testament to a collective strength of our members, and I couldn't be more proud. Building a positive relationship with HR has been a priority. While negotiations and discussions aren't always easy, I truly feel we've made strides in working collaboratively. I'm especially grateful for the opportunities to learn and engage alongside HR, our TPA, and Superintendent Stock. including attending the governor's budget workshop this January 21st. Liz and I, who is my first vice president, are honored to represent our members at this event, and we look forward to bringing back valuable insight to share with everyone. Tonight, I would like to take a moment to recognize some of our incredible M&O members. Last year, Rock Creek PTC worked tirelessly to raise funds for a new marquee sign, which has been awaiting for installation at our M&O warehouse. Due to the lack of availability and cost of renting a forklift, ground members Ryan Kincaid, Mike Bianco, and Jake Worthing worked together to design and plan to manually lift the marquee sign onto a trailer, secure it safely, and deliver it to Rock Creek. When they arrived, they were greeted by lead custodian Joe Santos and maintenance members Chris Arias, Ralph Ruiz, Luke Garcia, Will Fager, and Alish Kiskowski. Together, they removed the old marquee sign, installed the new one, and properly discarded the old equipment. Through their teamwork, expertise, and resources, they saved the district the cost of hiring an outside contractor, and they were able to work together as a team. To me, this effort and the spirit of collaboration, dedication, that's what makes our members truly exceptional. As we continue to return to normalcy and settle into our routines coming back from Christmas break, I look forward to highlighting more of these incredible contributions from our departments in the months to come. Recognizing our members' hard work and celebrating their achievements is a priority for me, and I'm eager to share more of these stories with you in the next months. I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I deeply appreciate your support and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your positive attitude and what you are trying to foster, the growth and the unity. We feel it. Thank you for all that you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys have a good evening.
Okay, we will now move to item 7.1, comments and report from our student board representative. Kylie, will you please share your report?
Bulldog Country is back in full swing at Rocklin Elementary with new club offerings for January. Students can choose from Wind Down Wednesday, Heart Art, Lego, broadcasting, math markers, and debate clubs. In addition, our PTC is hosting a family game night on Thursday, January 16th. At Quarry Trail Elementary, students across all grade levels have engaged in meaningful activities that celebrate culture, history, and teamwork. In December, the first grade classes celebrated La Posada, a traditional cultural event. Students created festive decorations, learned about holiday significance, enjoyed breaking piñatas as a part of the celebration. The third grade classes embarked on engaging field trips to explore Rocklin's rich history. Students visited local landmarks and gained valuable insights into the heritage of their community. The fifth grade students participated in an educational presentation about the American Revolution. This interactive experience helped them deepen their understanding of this pivotal period in history. After returning from winter break, students and staff are energized and ready to dive into learning and activities for the remainder of the school year. Quarry Trail Elementary continues to foster creativity, curiosity, and a love of learning through these meaningful events and activities. At Sierra Elementary, we're gearing up for our first Sierra Family Cultural Night. Sierra Sharks and their families will share about their cultures, participating in a fashion show, and end the evening learning in a family dance led by cultural dance expert Alex Shadle and International Dance and Arts Collective. Antelope Creek students started working with Broadway babies and kids this week in classrooms. They are beginning with vocal exercises and short follow-along routines with musical theater experts. These classes are tied to the California state standards in ELA and social studies. Fifth grade students at Antelope Creek will also be organizing a fundraiser to support the Los Angeles communities as they struggle with the wildfires that are devastating the region. Students will be raising money that will go to support the Red Cross agencies in the Los Angeles area. Finally, Antelope Creek will be hosting an informal webinar Tuesday, January 14th for Spark the Arts, and we will begin our first school tours on Friday, January 17th. Sign-up information can be found on the district or school web pages if you are interested in the Arts School of Choice program at Antelope Creek. Go Falcons! Rock Creek students and staff came back from break refreshed and ready to learn after winter break. We're kicking off our next round of intervention this week, and we are thrilled to have an extension of our newly formed drama club kicking off their mini workshop this month in playwriting, and look forward to meeting the new Red Hawk families at our TK Kindergarten Information Night next Wednesday. In addition, Rock Creek launched their newest student club, Hawk Helpers, in which a small group of 5th and 6th graders have learned conflict resolution skills to help out younger kids during their recesses. 2025 is off to a great start at Rock Creek. At Breen Elementary, their student leadership was visited by Rocklin High School's leadership group. They all engaged in team bonding activities and learned from the older students what it's like to be a leader at a high school level. The 5th graders at Breen had printed the second school issue of our school newspaper, the Breen Beacon. All 64 students contribute to the newspaper, working in teams to research and write each of the 15 sections in our paper. The 3rd graders at Breen have been studying animal adaptations. We are very excited to culminate our unit of study with a trip to the Nimbus Fish Hatchery to see the amazing salmon and steelhead trout in action. Lastly, Victory High's Interact Club once again put service before itself by hosting a food and clothing drive. Thanks to the incredible support and generosity of our community, we received enough donations to restock our care closet and to host our annual holiday giveaway, including foods, gifts, hygiene products, and other apparels. Last Friday, Victory High conducted our Q2 awards ceremony, recognizing students for their academic, attendance, and character achievements. A record of 34% of students, including me, attained either honor roll or principal's list status. Finally, the Victory High School student body is looking forward to seeing those of you that will be participating in our LCAP student forum tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You did a great job. These are never short reports, so great job. All right, I'm going to turn a few minutes over to my colleagues for any board comments.
Well, I'd like to echo congratulations. That's exciting. You've obviously worked incredibly hard, so congratulations on honor roll principals list. I won't ask which one it was, but either are phenomenal, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you also for your report. I was especially touched by the section of students that are volunteering their time to support those affected by the LA wildfires, and I just thought, one, how incredible that is, that students are recognizing that there are many outside our area that are being affected right now. There are also many that in our area are being affected. We have friends, we have family, we have many family members of our students that are firefighters or first responders that are down serving and helping during this time. And so I just wanted to say a public appreciation to all of those family members and friends. I know there are many school districts that are devastated right now about the wildfires, and so heartbreak for them, and just a heartfelt appreciation to the students and staff that are helping lead those efforts to support them. Additionally, a note about RAAC that I actually had on my paper. There's a career fair coming up, and always appreciate the incredible work, the above and beyond that our staff there does. And I just thought this is a great opportunity. There was multiple community groups that are listed on that that are going to be available to students that day to talk about postgraduate options. And I love that we do that. We talk about that as a board, but you are actually doing the work to make sure our students know there are many postgraduate options, and many of them are local. And so I just really wanted to just publicly appreciate. I look forward to that event coming up. I believe it's January 31st. And then additionally, another event that I was made made aware of that I just wanted to publicly show appreciation for as well is our JROTC is having a military ball coming up. And, each board meeting, it's an honor to have students serve in such a way and the color guard. And I've been to this event before, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great opportunity. It's typically student-led, and so if you haven't seen some of the great work of our JRTC, and there's a few other programs under the leadership of Major Pearl, that's another phenomenal event coming up on January 25th. Just wanted to show my appreciation.
First, with the family partners and with the employees and those things, we tend to ask the community for gifts. So they don't get a lot of credit. And I just want to say thank you to Panera for doing that, for supplying those things. It's a nice thing for the community to help the schools, and it's great if, as people in the community, we can help them out too. So thank you to them. Thank you for the student report. It is always great and amazing to hear the things that are happening on all of our campuses and all the events, and every time we have a report, it's just amazing to hear that all those things are happening across all of our schools. And then finally, thank you, CSEA team, for making things happen. I don't think people are aware. Usually we have to outside hire. Usually we're hustling Craig for things. Usually, it's always beg, borrow, and steal. So thank you to that group. And for all the kids and the families that came back, their tireless efforts during the holiday to make the repairs, fix the things, clean the things, organize the things, so that kids can come back and we're ready to learn and ready to go. So thank you, CSEA.
I echo what has been said already, and definitely with the fires, I know a lot of our community members have been impacted either with relatives living there or family members that have gone to help. So thank you for noting that. And thanks for bringing up the military ball. This will be my first year attending, so it was good to hear a little bit about what happens there. Couple things that have happened recently. I was able to attend the Quarry Trail Fiesta del Año Nuevo again this year. Really exciting to see new families coming out with an interest, that program of choice continuing to grow, and just the kids having a lot of fun with those different cultural experiences. Last night, I was able to attend the Spark the Arts Zoom that Jill Thorndike and Principal Brian R. Curry hosted for the community. Seemed like a pretty good turnout on there. They just did an excellent job of kind of illustrating the methodology behind this new program of choice, what it kind of offers the students, and also still provides excellent rigor for the curriculum. One thing that was cool is that they talked about the tours that they're hosting to show prospective families the program, and they're booking up, so they're having to schedule more. So pretty exciting on the horizon for Antelope Creek. Also, I think last night, since I saw Principal Stewart come in, there was the RHS Faculty Follies. I got to watch a little bit of the math department's performance, which was great, but I did hear that you sang, so maybe sometime you'll let us hear some of that. Sounds like it was pretty good. A couple other community things. The City of Rocklin is seeking nominees for the Rucola Community Service Awards for individuals and groups that have contributed to making our city a wonderful place to live. So I've been promoting that pretty hard lately. If you go to their website, there's a very simple application. It would be great to see some youth nominees, but definitely anyone who has made a difference would be great to see. Also, coming up on January 20th, on Martin Luther King Day, what has become an annual event here, the Placer County Martin Luther King March at Johnson Springview Park from 8:30 to 1:30. Always a good event. I think all of us almost always are able to make it out. Lots of community leaders, students, teachers, police, fire, just a really positive event. So hope to see lots of families out there too. Thanks.
Just really quickly, a couple things. Kylie, great job. Thank you. You did a really good job, and congratulations. And then Bettina, your reports are always so positive, and I love hearing about the CSEA staff. I'm so grateful that you come and you share those stories with us. And then coming back from Christmas break, from the holiday break, is always, there's a honeymoon period, and then the kids go a little bit wild. So just a shout out to teachers. I know it's a struggle right now. The struggle is real. As I was leaving last month's board meeting, something occurred to me, though. There were some principals in the audience, and we haven't really thanked or talked about our principals in a while. And I think we often, from up here anyway, talk a lot about our teachers and our CSEA staff, and our principals are always just expected to work really hard and make it all go. So I really wanted to take a minute to say how much we appreciate you, and we know that none of this would be possible without our absolutely amazing administrators, and we love you. You are very much appreciated, and I'm sorry I haven't said that more often.
Thank you. It's rough going last. You guys have taken what I had to share, but I appreciate what's been shared. Superintendent Stock, do you have any additional comments?
Just a couple. One is we have reached out to school districts down in Southern California and through statewide organizations to offer any assistance our school district can. And we know that from the experiences that colleagues have had up in Paradise that it is not just the immediacy, but it's the next really 6 months as they work to rebuild, restructure. So we are offering assistance as we can to support schools and down there in Southern California. Also excited to announce that our TKK registration is officially kicking off next Tuesday, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through our website. And we also have online and on-demand information sessions if you'd like. We also are offering in-person sessions at our schools, and you can sign up an RSVP through our website for families that want more information. And there's just a lot of information about our different programs of choice. So we encourage you, if you are one, you know one, or you'd like to have one attend here, to get them signed up and registered. And we really want folks to get the word out. So we're very excited about that. And also registration is open for all grades next year as well. So we just, again, if people have questions, check our website, give us a call, and we're happy to assist families in getting ready for the next year. So that is the only new information I have to add, President Price.
Thank you. We will now move to item 8.1, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are to be considered routine and will be enacted by one motion followed by a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the Board of Trustees or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Any items removed will be voted upon following the motion to approve the consent calendar. Does any trustee wish to remove an item from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
First by Trustee Hupp. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Counter. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Jarrett Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, thank you. All right, we now invite Craig Rouse, Senior Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations, to present item 9.1, action on Resolution 242512 regarding Rocklin Unified School District's annual 23-24 developer fee report regarding capital facility fees and findings thereon pursuant to Governor Code Section 6601 and 66006. We're ready for you.
That was a mouthful. Good
Yeah.
evening, President Price, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Stock. So referring back to Government Code Section 66006 requires any district collecting developer fees to annually report the activity in the Capital Facilities Fund, which is commonly referred to as a developer fee report. And the Government Code 66001 requires a report every 5 years if there's any funds remaining, which would identify future projects to which these monies would be applied. The district brought the 5-year report in December 2022, so this year we're bringing the annual report. So in accordance with Government Code Section 6606 and Section 66001, The district is providing the annual activity in the Capital Facilities Fund developer fee report with respect to that portion remaining unexpended. And with that, staff is recommending a motion to take action on Resolution 24-25-12, a resolution regarding the Rocklin Unified School District Annual Developer Fee Report regarding capital facility fees and findings thereon pursuant to Government Code Sections 6601 and 66006. Any questions?
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution 24-25-12 regarding the Rocklin Unified School District Annual Developer Fee Report regarding capital facility fees and findings thereon pursuant to Government Code Sections 6601 and 6606?
So moved.
First by Trustee Hupp. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Sutherland. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson.
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff.
Yes.
Derek Counter.
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland.
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have Hannah Anderson, Director of Innovation, School Programs, and Accountability, to present item 9.2, 2024-25 School Plans for Student Achievement and 23-24 School Accountability Report Cards. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you. Good evening, President Price, trustees, Superintendent Stock. On an annual basis, each school site council is required to submit the school plan for student achievement to the board for approval. School accountability report cards are completed annually as well, with input from school sites and district office departments, including business, facilities, human resources, and ed services. However, much of the school accountability report card data is pre-populated by the California Department of Education and is available through the California Longitudinal database, which we input data into annually. At this time, I am available to answer any questions regarding those SPSAs or those school accountability report cards, and staff recommend action on those SPSAs and school accountability report cards.
Thank you. Colleagues, do you have any board comments or questions?
Yeah, I think specifically for the SPSA ones, those for mainly for the Title I schools, correct?
Correct.
From a format standpoint, why do all the schools have a different format?
About 6 years ago, we moved from approving all of the school plans for student achievement to approving only those for our Title I schools. Each school develops, all 18 of our sites develop a school plan for student achievement. We moved 6 years ago to identify and move these plans more to a continuous improvement model and less to what they were prior to that time, which was the state says I have to do this plan, the district says I have to do this plan, stamp, I did this plan. And we tried to integrate them more into the actual improvement culture of that school site council. Give those school site councils authority to make decisions about their schools, what kinds of data they wanted to include, give those school leadership teams autonomy to make some local decisions at that school site level. We do ensure that all the schools have alignment in that each school has to align their site goals and their site actions to be in alignment with the trustee-approved LCAP for the current year. So, and then we give guidance on when we have improvement initiatives in the district. For example, 2 years ago, we required that each school add an additional action related to attendance improvement. So they could be collaborative with their site leadership teams and their school site councils on very specific actions to make improvement for district-wide initiatives, what they were going to do at the actual school level, classroom level, front office level, throughout the district. So what that has done over the 6 years is that it's gone from a very compliance-oriented document to being one that is intended to drive improvement, but we have noticed as well this year that the formatting is starting to look a little bit dissimilar from school site to school site. And so we're going to try to strike a balance in future years between something that is intended to be continuous improvement oriented. We want local decision making. We think that's important for our school site councils. We also want our school plans to look generally the same in terms of formatting so that they're easy for the community to read and you can look across plan to plan. So that is why, in a long nutshell, why those plans look slightly different.
And then again, same schools, those SPSA schools, a lot of them have metrics where it's, here's my current baseline, here's where I want to be. Will there be a report, summer, whatever, once the school year ends, hey, we want to be 2% here, 1% here, whatever the numbers are, do we come back with those results at some point?
We absolutely can. We historically have not had that, but each council does that. There is a right-hand column where they need to look at the difference between their baseline and what they anticipated the growth to be, and that then helps them decide on the goals for the following year. Not all the data will be readily available by this spring, but we certainly could do that as much data as we have towards the end of the year, either in report format or in some type of memo to the board, or we could do that next fall as well.
Yeah, again, from a continuous improvement standpoint, I think it's amazing that we do that. I think it's great setting those goals. It would be nice to see, hear, understand, hey, no problem, hit that out of the park. Hey, had a challenge, here's what we're gonna do, here's what we learned. Like, again, that's from continuous improvement standpoint, I think it'd be amazing to show the community and then, show all of us.
Thank you.
And then there's another, so there's the other schools, the SARC, that's everybody, right?
Yes.
So there's a handful in the notes, and Craig, I'm not putting you on the spot, but there's a handful of them that talk about interior and having either, most of them are like check boxes. We can open up any of them, it's like, hey, everything's great. The interior always seems to be something that is a challenge. I'm assuming those have been translated into work orders and you have plans, goals, or already on your project list, or it's not. I'm trying to confirm these aren't surprises, is where I'm going.
Correct. So when the Williams Act inspections take place midsummer, and that's right in the middle of when we're doing our deep cleaning. And a lot of the items that they put on the checklist, our custodians are going through and replacing ceiling tiles and fixing outlets that are, cover plates are broken. Some of the items that were on this year's list, we had some low faucets that had low pressure, went into our work order, and we got them taken care of as, we start working through the year. There was some siding that needed to be replaced. We're doing that in-house with our in-house team, and we're going through and working for it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, it goes into our work order. If our custodians haven't already done it, and they're deep cleaning through the summer, and then we take care of it through the year as we prioritize all the other work orders.
Okay, thank you. And then just one more, and finally, more just a note. For those of you that didn't read them all, I will apologize, I read most. It is amazing to see, and it is really good. They all have metrics from a math, from an ELA, and from a science, and it has the school metrics where we're at, it has district metrics, and it has state metrics. And ever since I've ever seen these on the years of the board, we by far blow the water out of the state metrics from a district, and our school metrics are always pretty close. So thank you to those teams. It's great to see. I hope never to be a district, I was joking with Roger about this, to be one of those districts where your district numbers are lower than the state number. So I never want that to happen, and I can't imagine being a trustee on that board, but good to see that we are nowhere close to that, and we're doing great, so thank you.
Great. Not a question, but a comment. First, just appreciation. A lot of work goes into these. I just wanted to do a shout out to a couple different groups of people. First, those serving on our school site councils. Having served on multiple over the years in our district, elementary and high school, that's a really important role. And hopefully these, I know when I was on, these would come before us at a school site council to make sure that these are site specific. And so I appreciate that opportunity. I appreciate all of the parents serving on the school site council and the staff as well. These are important documents, and I just want to encourage our community and our parents especially. These documents may appear lengthy. They're probably about, 20 pages per site. But it's really, really good information because they talk about conditions of learning, pupil outcomes, which is really important, but then it also talks about engagement. And I love that section is on there, I'm sure, because the state requires it. But on each of these, there's typically a section where it'll say, these these are some gray areas for parent involvement. And so I just think as I'm out talking with parents, I think these are great documents if you haven't looked at them, to look at them, to see what it is your school site is doing, to see what your goals of your school site are, to see how the dollars are being spent at your school site. And so again, just want to thank everybody that's working on these, but also kind of just ping our parents and our families in the community. This is a great way to learn more about how your school's operating, and if there's questions you have, to see your school site, or talk to your school site's council leaders. Sometimes I'll have parents that are school site council leaders reach out to me and ask, what can we do more? And the board really depends on you to be talking to the parents of your school site. So we make sure that your site needs are needed and aren't lost in a district of 16, 17 schools. So just a thank you again and a highlight for our community that these are really good documents to read.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve the 2024-25 school plans for student achievement and 23-24 school accountability report cards?
So moved.
First by Trustee Sadoff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Hupp. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Kylie Johnson,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 10.1, Marty Flowers, Associate Superintendent of Secondary Education, will present information on a proposed new high school elective course for 2025-26.
Good evening, President Price, Trustee, Superintendent Stock. I'll be joined later at the podium by my colleague and also known as Frank Sinatra himself, Mr. Davis Stewart. But it's my pleasure to come before you this evening to introduce new courses for, believe it or not, the 2025-26 school year. So just a quick overview of this. This is going to look very familiar, as you guys have seen this over the last couple of years, but I'll review Board Policy 6143. I'll talk about our adoption process. I'll present that new course. And then a little twist this year, you can see here the title, Possible Dual Enrollment, Concurrent Courses Offered. We have opportunities, and I'll go into those later, but not ready to present as new courses, but we want to make those opportunities specifically for our students at Victory High School. Ms. Kingree's here, and she has applied for one of those, but I'll go over that in a second. And then the next steps. So as you know, our Board Policy 6143, here's the abbreviated, but the board recognizes a well-aligned sequence of courses. Districts offers courses shall provide opportunities to attain skills, knowledge, abilities to be successful academically, professionally, and personally, and the board shall review and approve new high school courses prior to implementation. With that being said, here's just a visual of our process. You can see it's a four-step process. The first one really starts with the teacher and the students that are interested in new courses and taking that to the department chair, later to the principal, getting it approved by site leadership, and then later by site council. We take that on to our secondary leadership team, and that's a meeting of all secondary principals to make sure they're in tune with this. We want to make sure we're offering courses that all students may be interested in. And then finally, we're in step 3 tonight, and then I'll follow up with step 4 at the next board meeting, asking the board to take action on that. With that, actually, we only have one course this year. If you know Mr. Bergman at Rocklin High School, he's put forth the sports psychology. If you know Mr. Bergman, he's an amazing teacher, been with Rocklin High for a number of years, also does an amazing job with the water polo program, very involved. He, and I got to give a shout out to Kristen Ham as well. She's been a coach with him for a number of years, but students are very excited about this. Once again, the goal would be that we'd be able to start this in the fall of 2025 with board approval. So what is this course? It provides an in-depth exploration of sports psychology in key areas through structured units. And one of the things as I talk to Mr. Stewart about this, and I think about students, if you think everything students went through during COVID, and we talk about the mental health, I'm one of those that always participated in sports and coached for about 15 seasons, and you can learn so much from sports, participating, being a team member, the highs and lows of sports. I won't share my first year coaching basketball, made the playoffs, and the principal came out of the stands to congratulate me with 3 seconds left on the clock. We were the number 16 seed. Yes, President Price, that is true. A kid by the name of, I kid you not, he was named Michael Jordan, but it wasn't the Michael Jordan, but hit a half-court three-point shot. And I've never been so high in my life and so low in my life. And as a young coach at the time, to see those seniors in high school and the struggles. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. You could see here the course content, going through the fundamentals of sports psychology, building that character and personality and sportsmanship, communication, leaders, once again, going all the way through the anxiety, if you've ever participated in a sport. A little scary out there. Again, I think Coach Stewart can share some opportunities when he was the golf coach. And when you tee off in front of the players, and they all have their own personal coach, and they could beat us badly every time, but get a little anxious up there. So this is just an opportunity that students are excited about. Obviously, a shout out to Mr. Bergman. Also want to thank him for putting forth the effort to go through this process, as always. Also want to thank Beth Davidson and Amanda Bannister for their work on this. And again, this is an opportunity, I think it's exciting. As you all already know, we have a number of CTE courses, VAPA, music and such. This is really an academic elective that kids are interested in. You know, you throw sports in there, and I think this really has an opportunity to draw a lot of interest. So with that, I'll go over and shift a little bit. And once again, I say possible dual enrollment. As you know, we have a number of dual enrollment opportunities through Sierra College. This is the one that I think I've spoken to each of you individually about, is that we really want to try to bring something onto the campus of Victory High School. And this is one where it's really focused on building those work skills. It's called Business 159. And the reason I say possible is because there's a whole interview process. Ms. Kingery and other teachers have applied for that, and that doesn't take place until February and March. Obviously, we're talking about next year, but I didn't want to go through the entire process of explaining this course, but I'm very excited about this. Mr. Hutton as well, we're working closely with Sierra College to really make this happen. As of right now, it looks like we're going to try to get it in there possibly as a little bit of a pilot, but eventually the goal would be that every kid that graduates from Victory High School would complete this. And once again, as we all know, studies show that once you get enrolled and you can prove that you can pass some of those college classes, the percentage of students going to community college and college later on really increase significantly. So that's really the goal here. The other one is actually one not brought by either school, but by our very own Chief of Police, Rustin Banks. Chief Banks has been a longtime adjunct professor at Sierra College. He has taught this. Currently, this class is being taught at Placer High School. The first semester they did this, they had 7 kids sign up. Once word got out, they had 33 kids sign up. So this kind of came in late, but what this administration of Justice 50 is really an introduction to law enforcement. And in working with Chief Banks closely, as many of you know, Laura Brunn does an amazing job out at Whitney High School. She actually has 6 dual enrollment classes in forensics alone. So working with Chief Banks, will we be able to turn this into some type of law enforcement pathway? There's still work to be done, but with your approval, what I'd like to do is really take a student's survey interest for next year. This could be available to any current sophomores and juniors. Obviously, seniors aren't going to have that opportunity. But once again, we want to check the interest at that because it is a semester-long class. We would not count it as a dual enrollment per se because it's not being taught by an RUSD teacher. But we have many of our kids that participate at Sierra College concurrent enrollment. And that's something we're looking at. Just the initial thoughts is we could run it at 0 period with our high school starting at 8:45. And we could meet the maximum hour requirements if we do that maybe a couple days a week. If we have enough students at Whitney High School, we would run it at Whitney first semester at Whitney, and then Rocklin, and include those Victory High students as well. Now that Rocklin High starts at 8:45 and Victory starts at 9, you don't have that large gap. So those kids would be able to come over and participate in that. Kind of looking at this as a possible pilot next year, and then obviously continue to work. I would love to get it to be a dual enrollment class so we get that extra benefit. But once again, a shout out to Chief Banks for bringing this to our attention. And like I said, he's taught this course for about 10 years and is excited to bring it to Rocklin. With that, just our next steps. Obviously, make any necessary adjustments to the proposals or provide additional information for the board input or requests. We'd bring the finalized recommendations to our next board meeting on the 12th. And then if approved by the board, we'd get it in that academic planning guide as students start signing up for that for next year, 2025-26. Mr. Stewart is here to answer any questions if you'd like, or I can answer some as well.
Perfect. Let's put Mr. Stewart on the spot.
Microphone.
Mr. Stewart, since you're here and Scott's not, can you tell us a little bit about where he got his curriculum from? Like, does he come up with it himself, and or is it
A little bit of
already
both. Some of it is out of the current textbook that we use for psychology, and so, and then other that will be supplemental. We actually have a coach on our campus who practices this, and that's Brett Alman Cesar, our volleyball coach. He has been coaching for about 30 years. He's won 11 state championships.
Wow.
And so he really comes with this, but I actually watched what him put it into effect with his girls this season. By the type of music he plays during warm-ups against the teams, to the way that he approaches the officials, just the simple posturing. If you were to put your hands up like this, you're challenging an official, but if you put your hands down like this and don't make eye contact, you can communicate much more effectively. Just little things like that are things that he practices. Not just that, but with about 1,200 student athletes on our campus, we really think that, it's our strongest program that we connect students to campus, that they could benefit from a sports-specific psychology. If you think about any athlete, what are they going to do before they shoot a free throw, kick a soccer goal, defend a soccer goal, as Matthew does? They're going to take breathing, right? They breathe if they're in tune with that, so they can get their body to function at its peak performance. Little things like that are what they go through in this class. And then obviously now with cell phones and being able to videotape yourself during that, and then analyze how you are able to do that stuff. So we really think it's going to be a really popular class. We think some of our athletes who maybe are taking different electives, especially our senior athletes that need that maybe 6th class that last semester, would want to take this that they can actually use. So we're pretty excited about the potential for this on our campus, and a long time coming. Currently we have 7 psychology classes on our course, so we really see it just shuffling of numbers, maybe taking a little bit more sports-specific psychology, as I mentioned earlier.
Perfect. That was my next question, is how many student athletes do we have? So 1,200, that's a huge percentage of students. Of course, any student can take the class, but I think it'd be really beneficial to so many students. I'm really excited. Thank you.
Yeah, 10, 12. Freshmen wouldn't have that opportunity.
Right.
Just because we think that they need to mature a little bit more. And more.
So for the sports psychology class, and I would even say potentially for the law enforcement opportunity, is there any prerequisite? Do we assume you got to, I get not freshman, but is there anything you should take course A or B before you get to here?
Well, once again, as Mr. Stewart mentioned, not for freshmen, for the sports psychology. As far as law enforcement, they do a great program in the summertime. It's really directed towards our middle school students, junior police activities. They do 2 weeks of this, and it sells out each year. With that, can we get some of those kids involved? Once again, the recommendations really looking at maybe the incoming juniors and seniors of next year. But if you'd like, we could probably put that out, because once again, the more they get introduced to this and the more Chief Banks gets a hold of them, maybe they can turn into that pipeline.
And then I guess one other one, sports psychology, and I get at Rocklin, we get a lot of people, a lot of attendance, a lot of interest. What would be the plan to have it at Whitney or other schools?
The nice thing about this is once that class is approved, it's available at both schools. And if we really do get a lot of interest, obviously, Mr. Collins is aware of this. We could transfer that over as well. If there are some open seats, once again, we have a number of kids that go back and forth. So,
Great. You guys took some of my questions. That was incredibly helpful. The ages, and are we approving for both campuses and pretty much any teacher or teacher qualified to teach this class? And it sounds like the answer is yes.
Correct. That's my understanding. Once the course is approved by the board, it could be taught at both schools.
Okay.
And once again, depending on the credentialing for that, this was actually a social studies class, so they'd have to have that proper credential to teach it.
Okay, and it would be slated as an elective, but I saw in there's a potential possibility of wanting it to move towards an A through G requirement?
It's true. As it would be A through G, it would be a G that represents the elective offerings.
Okay, so just a couple questions I had on that one. Well, first I'll say the law enforcement piece, I just thought how creative that is. I think that's a phenomenal opportunity, that component. I hope to see that, learn a little bit more about that, but from what I'm hearing so far, would love to see that come to fruition. I think that's a great opportunity. The sports psychology, I have to say, I thought very creative. I think there were many things in here that was really intriguing to me, especially page 6, where it talks about the skills being gained are applicable beyond sports, right? I think there are, for my children that have gone through sports, I think they have learned many life skills beyond just athletic ability, correct? So I love the things on here, fostering personal growth, effective communication, leadership. I think those are great things this course could offer. I noticed a few things on there that I was just wondering a little bit of how we could see this play out. Or maybe I could see there maybe could be some sensitivity or involvement of parents wanting involvement. I think we said this is sophomores and up it's going to be offered to. Page 3, there's some APA social standards and gender standards that are listed on there. I just thought it's good to just highlight a little, a good conversation, talks about, there'll be conversations about biases, beliefs, how the presence of other people can affect behavior, of course, but then it kind of talks a little bit more about attraction, relationships, defining gender standards in the culture and their role in society. And I could just see those conversations could get a little sensitive. And just wanted to see if these are standards that are listed just because they're general standards within social science, or these are specific topics and conversations we plan to address with this class.
I do not have that specific answer, but I can certainly.
It's just informational tonight, so we can always follow up, but okay.
And that's, I think, kind of the purpose of the two-step process that we put in place. So I can definitely talk to Mr. Bergman and get back.
Perfect. I don't mean to catch you on the spot. It just caught my eye as I was glancing through it today, and I was like, ooh, this could be really, really phenomenal. I love the conversations. I think, especially our older students, these are necessary conversations to have. But I could see it maybe could get a little sensitive. And so I just didn't know, I'm not as familiar with the American Psychological Association, if those are standards we have to follow or if they're being cited in here. So if I could get a little more information on that, or I could even do a site visit or follow up with you directly, Mr. Stewart, if you'd prefer. Okay.
Yeah, just one thing I want to remind everyone, at the beginning of each year, all teachers go through our sensitive topics. That's something we do at the beginning, so every teacher out there understands that if they are teaching something sensitive, that they do that with a professional attitude and approach to it. And once again, I was just going to point out that these are the American Psychological Association standards, but we could definitely get more detailed information, and I'm happy to work with you if you would like to do a site visit, by all means.
Perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to highlight those ones because they caught my eye.
Just to back up what Mr. Flowers said, our social studies department actually created the template for sensitive topics on our campus. So if it's going to be a sensitive topic, they put that disclaimer up before any information they would introduce in that day or that lesson.
Oh,
so
perfect. Okay.
Anytime we have a sensitive topic or potential sensitive topic, that's the first thing we put up there to let them know or to kind of frame the conversation.
Perfect. And communication to parents on that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't really have any questions. This proposal is very thorough. It sounds very interesting. As a student, former student that went on to pursue psychology in college and wanted more, it's great to see, these different strands of, areas of learning. I like this idea that, it could become a psychology series, be a G requirement, same with the administration of justice. I think we're going to learn about AI and some of the district policies coming up, and being able to have a vast offering of different areas of learning, I think, is part of this kind of change in how students learn and take in information and show learning. And just the example of coaches out there putting some of these concepts into action is, I think, a great way to kind of illustrate how that will work. I think, our district clearly values physical fitness. we've talked with our students about mental health. I really like the way that this subject matter seems to show how those two things support each other so that we can teach our students how to cue into that and use those skills and the concepts that they learn. So I'm excited about that, and also these other proposed dual enrollment courses. Thank you.
I have a question about the essential skills class. Do we currently have like a life skills class already at Victory High School, and how is this different from that? We don't.
Guest presenting.
That's okay. Right now, we don't have a life skill class that we regularly teach. We do, some of our kids that have IEPs, they go and have their special ed teacher with them. But as far as a class that all students have, we don't have that. It's mostly academics and elective courses that are pertaining to, like I teach electronics and engineering, which I think is a life skill, but we don't have any like business type courses, and that's what this one would be for. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. If there's not any more questions, thank you so much. Thank you for your work on this. Oh, Julie does have a...
I do have just one comment about that particular course, because the way you introduced it, I'm so excited for the goal of that course, to have all of the students realize that they can do well in a Sierra College class while they're still at Victory is an absolutely amazing goal. I love that you're thinking in that direction. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Okay, thank you so much. Item 10.2, Marty Flowers and Ryan Johnson, Chief Technology Officer. Will you please join us and present proposed changes to the board policies to address artificial intelligence?
Once again, President Price, Trustee, Superintendent Stock. I'm excited actually to bring this forward because we'll talk about the AI as we've had discussions in the past, but obviously before we move forward with anything, we want to bring these proposed changes to our board policies to support the use of AI. I'll be joined by my colleague Ryan Johnson, as well as a special guest hiding in the back there, Craig Havlin, one of our most tech-savvy teachers that we have here. And before I get started, I think I drew the short end of the stick here as far as presenting, but this is really a group effort. Dr. McDonald's been leading this. Hannah and Beth have been involved in this, and a number of our teachers and administrators. And once again, artificial intelligence, I'm sure all of you see the same thing. Every single day, something is coming out, about how artificial intelligence can benefit you, make your life easier. We all have cell phones. We all have Google, Alexa, all those things, all that artificial intelligence. So with that, just a quick overview. We'll talk about previous and upcoming work we have. We have a lot of work in front of us. We'll talk about those proposed changes to board policies, introduce some guidance for teachers and students, and then talk about a launch of a pilot program specifically with Magic School AI in Brisk. With that, here's just a timeline. We've been talking since the summer of 2023, even at our cabinet retreat. Mr. Johnson did a little review about what is AI. And then in the fall, obviously we had teachers coming back. My good friend, Mr. Ryan O'Donnell, constantly chirping in my ear about what are we doing. And then moving through there in the fall, as you recall, we had a study session. It was very interesting. We had administrators and teachers, but most interesting from our students talking about how they're using AI. And then here we are in the winter of 25 with the board policies. We do have a communication plan in place, ready to go, and then we'll work on identifying some of those tools. With that, specifically, working with California School Board Association, we really trust what they put forward. We understand when they put out recommendations that they know they're compliant, that they meet the letter of the law. So we look forward to them for providing this. And we did discuss this as a work group, but we're bringing 4 of these policies in front of you tonight. 3 of them are just revisions. For example, Board Policy 4040, the employee use. It's combining the previous board policy and the AR into one, and it's really just updating that terminology and ensuring that we include AI in that. Some of you may ask, Board Policy 5131.9, academic honesty. This is new. Realize that going back 30 years, I actually had the opportunity to sit on the Academic Integrity Policy Committee at Rocklin High School, and we worked on that when Whitney High School was established. We moved it over there to hold kids accountable. Plagiarism is nothing new. All right, AI, a lot of people are concerned about. Is AI going to add to that? And I think when you go back to that board study session we had, we heard a little bit of everything. And so this is just bringing this forward to actually make it a board policy to really have another opportunity to support and to teach kids how to use things appropriately and hold them accountable. And then board policy 61, 62.5, student assessment. Once again, using some of those AI tools to help look at some of our student data and some of our student assessments and analyze that and bring it forward. I know Ms. Anderson uses some of this stuff. Mr. McDonald taught me a great lesson. He says, I use it as a thinking partner when I'm looking at different things, and I never thought of that because I'm not the most tech savvy, but I give a shout out to Mr. McDonald for his technology skills. And then finally, the student use. And this is one that we do. They did update the language to be more appropriate and include that AI. And this is where we have to do a lot of work. And again, I go back to that board study session. We heard some students that really use it as a critical thinking partner, and some students may be taking advantage of it a little bit. And in all honesty, we all are learning together as we move, where there's some out there that think we're behind. You know, when I deal with some of my colleagues up and down the state, we're right where a majority of people are right now. And once again, whatever we present today, it's going to change tomorrow with artificial intelligence. With that, we have some guidance. I'm not going to read this verbatim, but I'm going to look at that last one. AI offers opportunities to enhance learning, spark creativity, improve additional access for all students, and streamline teaching tasks. And that's really, if you go back to our study session, I know Dr. McDonald did some examples, and I shared what I had shared with my son. Literally, what used to take me as a history teacher 5 and 6 hours to do, you could get done in 5 or 6 minutes. And then you just go in there and you just check, to make sure the sources, the information is actually correct. Because believe it or not, not everything on the internet is true, and AI is the same thing, and we'll talk more about that a little bit as well. As far as the core principles for teachers, student-centered learning, transparency and accountability, access and fairness, that academic integrity, obviously we have to make sure they understand how to use it appropriately. And then the most important thing, and Mr. Johnson talks about this all the time, the data privacy and security of what they're doing. Do not ever put personal information out there on the internet. Going on as far as responsible uses of AI for teachers, really to use anyone, whether you're Jonathan Flowers in your 3rd year or you're Michelle Flowers in your 31st year. You can use AI to help create new and innovative things. Just because it's worked for 20 years, what can you do? And that really goes along with our district philosophy about continuous improvement. We always want to improve and make things interesting. We need to educate the students, as I mentioned, set those clear expectations, encourage collaboration and critical thinking, the responsible use of AI, the efficiency of AI, and then we always have to monitor and reflect what's working. And once again, right now, and Mr. Johnson will talk about this, when we did our May Play, Magic School AI was the one that many of the teachers have used. We all know that come next month, next year, there's going to be a new tool out there. So we just have to be prepared to monitor and reflect and be ready to change. Special considerations, as I talked about, bias awareness. Once again, we probably all read some of the information. Some teachers have used AI to help grade. Well, it negatively impacts some of our EL students. All right, the concept is right on. Maybe some words are not appropriately used, and if you use an AI tool, it's gonna negatively impact those students. So you have to understand that there is bias in it. We have to make sure that all students have access, again, the safety and privacy and consistency of use. Resources, and again, I'll give a shout out to Mr. O'Donnell because he said in our PD committee that AI is one of those things that you're gonna get out of it what you put into it. It's not like Ed Services is gonna be able to go out there and in 8 hours teach everyone how to use AI. They're gonna have to play with it. They're gonna have to pick through it. And some tools, and that's the struggle here. As we learned during COVID, we had some additional funding that we can go out, and because of COVID, teachers were forced to learn how to use technology, okay? This is an opportunity that they're not necessarily forced to, but I will say that as they learn more and more, it's gonna make their job more creative, more efficient, and so on. And again, we have to collect that feedback and we have to collaborate and share what's working and what's not. Going on to the students, and right now we're really looking to focus on the teachers and getting them up to speed here, but as we learned, our students are using this. Again, responsible uses, we have to teach that. I won't read those through you, but the one thing that's really exciting, and I'm a Sunday morning news guy in 60 Minutes, and there's some schools back east using this, and they can literally personalize a tutor to that student's strengths and weaknesses. The tutor's available 24/7, asynchronous. You can use it whenever. I get excited because the more and more I use it, the more I learn and the easier it is and makes my job easier. And I know that's going to be the same thing for our students. Again, some important things though, the ethical and transparent use of this, and then respecting privacy. Prohibited uses of AI, and we've talked about it. If you remember at the last board meeting, there was a poster we created about mental health, knowing that we need to make sure students all know this. We need to post this up there. The prohibited uses, yes, you cannot cheat and use AI to do all this. You can use AI as long as you disclose that you used AI. You would never want to enter sensitive or personal data into AI tools because that just goes right onto the internet. Activities, you got to understand bias and ethical standards. And then the one that is concerning is using this for inappropriate ways to bully or harass other students or even teachers. With that, I'm going to invite my colleague Ryan Johnson up to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers. We're really excited to be able to be here in winter and spring, kind of leading off this AI pilot. Last year in May, we were able to allow teachers to kind of play with 5 of what we felt were the best AI tools out there for teachers. And just kind of a free range, we be able to see how they like it and gather some feedback as to what the top tools that they have. These 2 tools were really far and above the top tools, Magic School AI and Brisk. So both of these components are really teacher-facing, but they also have really great student-facing tools to go with them too, and we'll share a little bit more about that. Some of the important things we look for when we're talking about student-facing tools is to be able to be transparent, let the instructor, let the teacher see how it's being used, and to help guide the students to think critically about the content and not just do the work for them. So these are the 2 tools that we're looking at doing across for the pilot this year. And kind of importantly, there's 3 things we're looking to achieve during this pilot. For teachers, we really want to be able to access tools to help them streamline their processes, give them some stuff to help make their jobs easier. For families, we want to be able to make sure that the teachers have control and insight into how it's being used, and we really want to be transparent with the students, with the families that we are using it, and give them some tools to learn how to live in a world where AI is just going to be embedded into their lives, and in a way that's appropriate and that's ethical for them. And then for students, again, give them some tools that are designed to help them with their critical thinking skills and really make sure that everybody has access to these tools in a way that's meaningful and that we can be collaborative with. So really, and I'm going to show you just a couple things, but we've got Craig, Mr. Havlin back here, and I don't know if you know Mr. Havlin. He teaches 5th grade at Sunset Ranch. He's one of our amazing teachers here at Rocklin School District. He's going to ask him to come up and just give us a few minutes on how he uses AI and Magic School specifically in his classroom to help kind of enhance his learnings and to help him and to work with his kids. So, Craig?
Thank you, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Stock, Ms. Johnson, for this time. Thank you for allowing me to come up and talk about how I use it in the classroom. My name is Craig Haviland. I teach 5th grade. If you know anything about me, I'm really passionate about educational technology. Have been for years, whether it's in my classroom, whether it was a tech TOSA for the district. It's something I've always been working on with kids to give back to them and teach them how to use the tools that they're going to end up using in the future. So Magic School AI is one that I've used a lot in my classroom. One thing, if you ask teachers, what do they need more of? Almost always they're going to say time, right? It's that time. So what I have learned in the last year using this tool is how much time I've saved. Whether it's at a new grade level, last year I did a 4-5 combo, so 4th grade wasn't as familiar to me. So using that to come up with some lesson plans and diversify for the kids with that. Something that would take me hour, two before it's done, and then I can go through, proofread it, check my sources, and get it up to the students ready to go. The differentiation, we all know students are at different places. So whether it's a UDL choice board where they're giving a different choice on what they're actually producing, or whether it's taking a text and putting it into either a different language so they can understand it, a different reading level so they can comprehend it and access it. It allows us to do that. Or for us teachers, those report card comments. I get into those habits before when I was writing them, they all sound the same. So allowing it to put in those strengths and weaknesses, and it produces something, and then you go through as a teacher and take a look at what it has. That's the biggest thing I know with AI is using it as a tool. It doesn't do your job for you. It produces stuff for you, generates things for you, and then you as the professional go through and you decide like, hey, I really like this, I'm gonna take that. I don't like this, and you can piece together your lessons or your differentiations through that. So with that, I'm gonna show you a quick demo, how we use it in the classroom. So if I take a look here, I have a couple prompts that are already done here. I'm not sure if I'm still logged in here or not. We'll find out. We'll test it out. All right. So a quick lesson plan one here. I have my prompt here. Copy it and click on lesson plan here. And it'll ask all these questions. And the thing I like about Magic School AI is it's very user-friendly. It's just buttons are all there. It gives a quick description of what it is. It's not threatening at all. It's not like you really have to search for things. So I can click the grade level. I teach 5th grade. Paste my prompt in here. The nice thing is, that's not the prompt I came up with. I clicked this little button that said get help with prompt, and it made me sound way fancier than I was, right? So you can put additional criteria. You can set the standards to align to it. You can do all of that. I'm just gonna hit generate right now, because I did this before, and it's gonna produce that for me right there. Come up with the information. It's gonna go walk through introduction. It's gonna give me independent practice, guided practice, homework, extensions I can do with it. And then I can go through as the educator and I can go like, hey, I really like this part of it, not a big fan of this part of it, and find what works for my classroom. And with a click of a button, I have all that. And then I can even add to it extra things. If I go down to the bottom, it'll always give you questions at the bottom like, can you suggest ways to make it more engaging? Video clips, things like that, that will allow me to make the most of the time in my classroom. The second one is going to be more of a differentiation. We know that all students have different skills, right? So some are great in the arts, some are great with their writing, some are math-minded. So giving them that with a UDL, different ways to show their work or their understanding is a nice thing. But I will tell you for sure, myself, half the time I'm given the same 4 projects, right? Because that's what's comfortable to me, right? So going in here, and I can just say, create that, and it'll go through. And I'm a big proponent of student choice, but sometimes I don't even know what I'm supposed to give them as choice. So this will come through and it'll give me all sorts of things: timeline creation, a play, podcast listening, posters, interactive maps, all sorts of things that they can be working on. And then again, you can choose. Or you can have the students be like, hey, do any of these look interesting to you? You can get in a group and you can work on those things. But if I'm sitting down, coming up with this list on my own, it's going to take me a while. So the amount of time it's given me back and the amount it's enriched my classroom has been huge. Even more so as a parent of students in the district, that student part of it is the biggest thing. My belief in education is we're preparing them for the future, and AI is part of their future. So when I started getting into Magic School AI last year, I did all the trainings they have online, and I went home and I signed my kid up for it, right? And I have her using it, and the beautiful thing is that it's set up in a way that it is a research assistant. It is a feedback on their writing. It is a tutor type thing. It's not a, hey, it'll do it all for me. I like those safeguards that are built into it. I can see what they're doing. I can pick the tools that they're using and teach them how to use it responsibly, because the kids are using it. So in order to have those safeguards in place, it's kind of key for us as, in my opinion, Rocklin Unified going forward. So thank you for your time.
So just to wrap things up, our goals and metrics, obviously we have to create some evaluation metrics, what's working, we have to have clear criteria, as Mr. Haviland talked about, teacher time savings. How much? Because once again, we want to provide data so teachers, if I'm not using it and I read this data about how much time is saved, because that's, as Craig said, that's what teachers need is time, maybe we'll get more interested in that. And then how does it impact student learning? That's why we're here. So is this increasing? Are we using some of those tutorials to help students? So we have some work ahead of us in that area. And then finally, just the timeline and next steps. You know, we're here tonight. We'll bring these board policies back on the 12th. We'll go through. We have a communication plan we'll put together and share that and be transparent with our parents, our staff, and our students. We'll launch that pilot after the next board meeting. That's when we have the President's Week off, so we're not going to be able to get to it until late February, early March. But then we'll create some feedback forms and gather that in March and then again in April. And then once again, moving forward, knowing that we're not going to be able to get out to every teacher, every school, what we've talked about is creating some ambassadors, someone like Craig Haviland that we can bring and say, hey, take 10 minutes at a staff meeting and just have him do a demo for the entire staff. This is some of the stuff I'm learning, looking at, and get them to help kind of grow this organically to get more people using it. And then finally in June, we're going to have to make a selection as far as what are the best tools out there available. Magic School is leading candidate right now. But once again, tomorrow Ryan's going to find another one. So with that concludes our presentation, but we're all three here available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of your work and the examples. Appreciate it. You guys have done an amazing job. I just want to go through and see if my colleagues, I wanted to bring up one of the policies. I know we have 4 that we're looking at tonight. I wanted to just mention policy 5131.9, academic honesty. So I talked to Superintendent Stock quite a bit about this. You know, this is really something I feel like we've been missing, and I was surprised that we didn't have. I appreciate the wording that we believe that academic honesty and personal integrity are fundamental components of a student's education and character development, and we expect that students will do these things. And I think when we have high expectations for our students, I've seen them rise to that. So I appreciate the wording on that. I had a question about paragraph 3. Probably for Superintendent Stock, are you looking to establish, is it just giving an option of a future committee? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, this just provides an option for that. At this juncture, I would not be looking to feel that a committee is needed, but it provides that option. And candidly, if this was not in the policy, I could still pursue a committee and would have that option under my authority.
I just thought it was interesting that it was listed. We got, just for the community to know, we get the wording from this from California School Board
Correct.
Association. This was their wording. So as a board, as a community, as parents, we can, staff, go through if there's something that we feel like doesn't fit Rocklin Unified. I just want to be sure that that's always an option. Does anybody else have anything specific that they would like to bring out, or any questions or comments?
Yeah, I appreciate the work on this. This is not easy work, and I just wanted to say first, Craig, thank you so much for the hands-on demonstration. I found myself watching that going, ooh, can that be used in my day job as well, even though I'm not a teacher, right? So thank you for showing that, because I think sometimes, right, we get so focused on policy and verbiage, but to see it in action was really beneficial, so thank you for that. Yeah, this policy in specific, I did have, and it's a silly little question, but the paragraph 4, the end of it says, this includes the inappropriate use of artificial intelligence. And I'm assuming that's meaning in relation as laid out in the student, which, I think that's 6163.4. I almost wonder, do we want to put that in there so it's clear? My concern is when we have a policy that uses a little bit of vagueness of, inappropriate action won't be allowed and appropriate action is expected. I agree with that. I just think that the definition of appropriate and inappropriate when it comes to AI is very wide right now. And so I think there are many other areas in this where we do specific call-outs. And so that sentence just caught my eye a little bit. I really liked the phrase that was used earlier. I believe you were speaking specifically about Mr. McDonald saying thinking partner, and I think that's a great way to look at AI right now. It's a thinking partner, right? And when we did our board study session and we had staff and students talking to us, we saw there was common ground, but there were some areas where different people had a different, I would say, tolerance for what was appropriate and inappropriate. And so I want to be very careful that yes, we do need to put something out, and I'm sure it will evolve over time, but board policy, I mean, we're putting every word into print. And so that sentence, I'd love to see it refined a little bit. Maybe it's just as listed in 6163.4, referencing the other one, so it's clear what we mean by inappropriate, so you're not duplicative. I don't know if other trustees, if that caught your eye or you agree on that. I do have a few others, but regarding that policy in specific, that was the only piece I had.
I think that's a good idea and a good point. Do we want to pull from that first paragraph and say, you know, maybe even more specifically, parentheses, cheat, lie, plagiarize, or commit other acts of academic dishonesty? I mean, it doesn't either way. What do you think would be best?
As I listen to you, I think about our academic integrity policy, and one of the things that if a teacher does suspect a student of cheating, they have to have a conversation. The teacher is required to call home to that parent, and they actually have to prove, because we don't want to assume anything. And the concern that a lot of people have is AI is just going to make it that much easier. You know, right now we have turnitin.com, and that's where we can throw an essay through, and it shares like how much of this is the student written material and how much is plagiarized, and it leads to that educational opportunity as far as, you know, you realize that if you move on in life, if this happens in college, you're kicked out of college. If this happens in your job, you lose your job. So again, I go back to our job is to educate students. When I talked about the posters about the responsible use of AI and the inappropriate use, it's going to be a constant reminder that we have to go. And once again, as we did our study session, that was with high school kids, all right? But just like everything else, it's going to filter down, and Mr. McDonald's going to be up here next time talking about fourth graders. So.
Trustees, I think that too, one of the pieces we did want to provide as a companion piece was that the guidelines we would be sharing at this time with what we know, to give more detailed descriptions to students and teachers based on a policy. But I think if there were two suggestions from trustees. One was either to cite back to 6163.4 or to restate some of the language in the first paragraph. I think both would give a little bit additional indication of what's intended in the policy, and it could be fine. But we also know that the guidelines that we shared would be more distributed, be more where we teach based on that. We even had conversations with our our principals this week and our district leadership team around how are we going to be incorporating AI into when we teach about, the cyber safety and computer, those components. So I think the reference of either one would accomplish what you're seeking, and then the guidelines would be the operationalizing of this policy and what we really put out. And it also gives flexibility as we learn, like through the pilot and things, to make modifications to clarify as needed.
I like the idea of citing where this information is located. That last sentence, given kind of what the subject matter of the rest of that paragraph was, it's almost like the inappropriate use is different than this, passing off solely AI product as your own original work. So if we were going to include more information about inappropriate use, maybe that would be a separate line underneath, but since it's separate, or we could just cite it and not have that redundancy in there.
So I'm hearing, I said one of the suggestions is to refer back to, per board policy 6163.4, so folks could see that more detailed.
I like that because I think that's where that detailed information is found, and then we as trustees can review 6163.4 to make sure it encompasses everything we wanted it to encompass.
Which is before you as well with the recommendations.
Yeah. Now, while we're on that one, I apologize. I said I only had one, but actually you triggered something in my mind when you said that. Further down, I think it's the second paragraph from the end, this is where it does talk about parents or guardians may be contacted, but it says as appropriate. And I am definitely a person of semantics when we're looking at policy. How is that determined when appropriate or not? If a student is receiving discipline surrounding AI, I would think it would be appropriate for the parent to be aware of this.
If they're receiving discipline, then a phone call will be made. But there's times where, again, a student does research and writes on it, and do they cite it appropriately? Is that cheating or is that just a mistake? And that's that educational moment. But this is where the professional opinion of the teacher, and in the policy that we have at both high schools, it's the teacher's responsibility to call and have that conversation with the parent. If it is true cheating, then the administration takes over that, because there are consequences to that.
Okay, I definitely want to give leeway. I'm not trying to make this more difficult, but because the line specifically says has committed an act of academic dishonesty.
By all means, if that's proven, then yes, a phone call will be made.
Okay.
So can we just strike as appropriate?
Needed. Again, I'm not trying to take away the ability for there to be discernment there. I just think AI and the use of AI is, although it's not new in the world, it's quite new in an academic setting to be having these conversations. And so how we accomplish it, I want to trust you individuals. I think my concern as a trustee would just be that if there is academic dishonesty, if it's being found that a student is committing an act of academic dishonesty with AI, I do think a parent should be notified of that.
Sure.
Correct. And I think Mr. Flowers was being like, while we're investigating that potential accusation, we may not call parents because it may be proven that no, the student says it's not founded. But if we're at a spot where we've determined that and it's leading to discipline, then parents shall be contacted, will be contacted. We can put a language that mandates that contact occur. But if we end up in a space where, say, Mr. Haviland takes someone down to Ms. Kircher's office that says, I don't think this was accurate, that conversation may lead to clarification that when it moves on, the student goes back. But if it does lead to, say, student discipline, then the parent shall be contacted. So,
Which that's standard with other areas not associated with AI.
It is, absolutely. And documented also that we made that contact.
So then we are saying that we would take off as appropriate or leave it because that's consistent?
I think the intent is, I think we can look to make sure that language is, I think it's the key is if we found that, then they shall be contacted versus we're looking into that and that piece that may be quickly explained and it's.
Or like thinking that it's an assignment in progress and more of like a learning, teachable moment of like actually, you would need to cite this as AI, or actually you're utilizing it too heavily, or something like that would not necessarily garner that level of.
And that's the teacher discretion, because it's just like if you're talking at a turn in class, a teacher may redirect you and you go back. And this may be where, say, again, Mr. Haviland, thank you for being here. He's looking at a student do some work and he's noting that that's not done properly. He may work to re-educate or give the student examples versus now you've committed an act. Now, if student, is done that repeatedly, then that's a different case. So typically in this, it may be, yes, technically if you were to turn this in, it would be a violate, but the goal is to have students learn the appropriate place, so he's going to redirect, re-educate. So that way it's not a discipline piece because that the goal is accomplished. So and he may never even talk to Ms. Kircher about that. He's done that piece there, just like the student talking at a turn. Typically that could be disruption, but he's redirecting. So that's where we get into that space where teacher discretion around, educating, directing versus no, this is a, violation and now we're gonna turn it over to administration and work through that. Because just as Mr. Haviland wouldn't call the parent to say, I was working with your child and they made an inappropriate citation and I wanted you to know, they would. So that's where we want to provide that discretion. But when we do think it reaches to the level of a consequence in that piece, then we do think parents need to make sure they're aware fully. So that's the functioning of how we're trying to create that space.
Can I ask a question about the part that says, I don't know where it is, toward the bottom of page 1. However, a student with a disability shall be permitted to use technology for any purpose identified in the IEP as a tool to support the learning. I'm just wondering with the language, the fact that it starts with however, like how is the usage of technology like AI different than what is kind of afforded to any other student. I guess just the fact that it's pulled out separately and kind of phrased in that way, I'm wondering if that may cause some, confusion as to how that looks in the IEP.
As I read that, if you look at the paragraph above, as far as the students may also use technology for assignments, homework, and such. However, a student with a disability, we have assisted technology now. They may use it a little differently, and it's not necessarily cheating based on what their IEP states in there. So I think, to me, the way I read it, they're making sure that they call that out, that students with disabilities that have technology written into their IEP can still use that, and it will not be considered cheating or inappropriate compared to the general population. That's my reading of it, but I understand how when you say.
I feel like the however doesn't.
What I say is however, it does draw your attention.
Yes,
But
yeah, so the however can be stricken, but the other intent in this was that the first paragraph says is like approved by the teacher. Well, if there's an IEP document, it doesn't matter if the individual teacher approves. That document's been written in, and that has to be followed. So what it does acknowledge, in a sense, is the IEP has supremacy.
Like supersedes.
And supersedes. So the word however could be awkward, and we can strike that word, but it does put in there that we do recognize an IEP supersedes that individual teacher's judgment or approval.
I think that would be a positive change. I also think that, that might be something to note as a potential area of training for case managers, anyone who's going to be writing IEPs, that, it's intentional with how that's done. I also, just while I have the floor, I really like that ambassador idea, like teachers like you going to other sites, because in looking at the pilot and providing tools to teachers, letting parents know, providing some tools to students, I do think, if we're going to present some tools to students, you could have a lot of variability with the amount of knowledge that those students, especially younger students, just kind of getting to know how to use AI, will be able to utilize it. And so if a teacher like you versus a teacher who maybe they themselves are only just starting to learn it during the pilot as well, it would be nice to make sure that students kind of all can have that same level of benefit during the pilot.
I had a general thought, and it was kind of along the same lines. It was a little bit about making sure everyone has access. And I know we mentioned that everyone will have access. But I noticed even just in our student forum when they were speaking to us, there were some that were very knowledgeable, and they said, my parents showed me this, my parents use this for their job, my parents do this. Where then you had other students there that didn't have those resources or didn't have those connections or maybe didn't even have the means. And so I know there's probably like a balance there, that it's not like you just want to open up this entire world of AI to everyone at every age, right? But I do think that's something we could run into, that I don't think it necessarily needs changed language, but I do think it's important to call out in this forum as we're talking about it, of how are we thinking about making sure, all of our third graders on all of our campus have experience or the opportunity to experience these resources, because at some point this is also going to skew the data that we're going to get, a few years down the road of, is AI helping students better prepare for their test, right? And I just want to make sure that we don't run into an issue where students either don't have physical access at home to utilize some of these tools, but others do, and or just lack of maybe parent experience or involvement because they maybe work a different type of job that they don't utilize AI every day. I just think it's really important we look at making sure every student is taught how to use these tools in an appropriate way. Have we had a chance to look at that?
We've had conversations. As you know, we have digital citizenship, and we go elementary all the way through. So that's some of the things that we have to embed to just introduce them and make sure that they all have a basic understanding as far as the benefits, and caution them about some of the things. But the reality is that every kid that goes home at night, some parents are very involved and others are not. but I think Mr. Haviland stated, we have to get them prepared for the real world. So we do have to teach the basic uses of it. And just what I said about teacher, in my opinion, they're going to get out of it what they put into it. As far as teachers, I think students are doing the same. And again, we go back to our student forum. We heard different views that evening about how students are using it. But we hear you, and once again, we are doing some of that digital citizenship, and teaching them how to use it appropriately will be part of that.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we're going to get to a space where it's like a textbook in a way, right? Of, we want to make sure that some kids have textbook. Well, no, we want to make sure everybody has a textbook, right?
One of the neat things about both these programs is it gives the students kind of a curated AI experience. So if I'm a teacher, if I'm a 5th grade teacher and I want to do an assignment, I can go in and select the 1 or 2 AI tools that I want my kids to use, and then I just simply push a button. The assignment will go into Google Classroom or a link into Schoology, and as the kids do the activity, they get to use those tools that I, as a teacher, have identified that these are the ones I want my kids to use. So they're all using the same tools. And I get visibility into, well, how are they using these tools? And so both of these programs do it a little bit differently. Brisk and Magic School AI do it differently. But they provide that same experience for teachers where the teacher has control of saying, my kids can use this AI tool. Now, a student may choose not to. It may be a writing assignment. They may think, I got this. I don't need AI for it. But if they are, those tools are there, and the teacher gets to see how they're using it.
And that's why we're doing these pilots, because we recognize that equitability of access. We want to set a baseline, and that's why looking at if we choose to make these tools available across the plane, then there's that equal access to that. Irregardless of whatever goes on in my own home and ability. Now, we also will have some students that, go above and beyond, and because they have the interest or the means, but so we don't limit that, but we do put a base in play that has access for teachers, students, that allow us to create that experience that you're talking about to make sure everyone has that. And so that's where we moved from beyond, as you heard, the variability of the students, as you mentioned, to now how do we create a consistency on that level playing field, and then students, of course, can go beyond that.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple more. It's great work, and it's a lot, and so I apologize it's all in one night, but I think it's good that we talk about it before we get ready to look at the option of approving this at a future meeting. So 6163.4, which is the student use of technology. Is it okay if I jump to that one real quick? So I like the end of the second paragraph. I think it does a really good call out there of student responsibilities, of academic honesty, honoring copyright provisions, assessing the reliability and accuracy of information, protecting personal data. So I thought that does a good job of doing some calls out there, so that's why connecting the two were together. But in paragraph 6, I was wondering if you scroll down a little, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is where we're talking about parent guardian permission. So I believe typically when it's come to technology, we as a district need to receive parent authorization before students utilize it. AI is a hard one for that. How do we do that? Now, I'm wondering if what you mentioned a minute ago is going to serve this purpose too, of one, how do teachers, I recognize we can't always address everything that happens outside of the classroom, but at least in our classroom, what our students have access to, how do we age appropriately limit that in an appropriate way in the classroom and give parents a little bit of reassurance about that we're not opening this whole world of AI to a first grader, right? But also, how do we get parent authorization when AI is so big?
So this is something we do every year in what's called data confirmation in the summertime, right? So as schools starts getting ready to go in, parents go into Aries, they sign their student use of technology agreement, their acceptable use policy, and that's where we're going to add some of this verbiage into AI for this next year. Yeah, so they read it, all parents are required to sign it for their students, and that covers this. We're working with the communications department to get some really good communication out to families in February as the pilot starts to kind of explain this and give a little bit more clarity and detail to families. And there are lessons that the teachers can use and teach in their classrooms that's age appropriate, teaching the kids about AI before they go and start using and turn on the student AI module. So the students are getting a lesson. That information is going to be shared with parents. Parents have access to see that, and we'll communicate out to them that this is going to be doing that. And the details of that, we're still working through what those details will look like of how that works in the classroom with Craig and his kids. But with the student use of technology and acceptable use agreement, all parents sign that every single year, and this will be adding some AI language into that.
So similar to students utilizing the internet in classrooms. Okay, their classroom experience. Yeah. Now, how would a parent, though, if a teacher's kind of paring down, hey, here's the tools we're using, how could a parent know that? Like, is that a Schoology listed on there? Like, how could they go in and actually play with it? I guess what I'm looking at is I could see there's probably many issues that could arise, and I don't want this to limit us. I want us to utilize AI. But I could see two things of one, maybe students utilizing AI and accessing inappropriate content that's not age appropriate. I'm hoping there's a way we filter that. That's okay. And then, like we do the internet, I'm assuming. And then two, accuracy. The AI I play with, I love to show my daughter at times the funny things AI spits out, because there has become already a dependency on the accuracy of AI, and it's actually not accurate all the time. And so I'm a little concerned about that second one, how parents could be reassured that the information their students are getting from AI is being double checked somehow.
And I think that's, I'll first address like appropriate use. So most students will come to school every day with an unfiltered internet device in their back pocket, right? They've got their phone that's not filtered. One thing that's great about these tools is these AI tools are filtered, they're curated, they're made for students to be used. So you're not going to be able to access using the tools through Magic School or BRISC on inappropriate information. And really for us as a district, just as our SIPA compliance, our way that we filter the internet, AI is kind of shut off for our network for students, generally speaking, for all students with grade levels. They can't go into ChatGPT using their Chromebook and bring something up. No, that is filtered for students completely. It's not for teachers, but it is for students. And I'm trying to recall with my...
Yeah, no, we don't want that to be a challenge to any students that are listening, but that... Yeah.
No, but because that's very open-ended. Okay, and then the second one, the accuracy of it. I mean, I've played around a little bit with AI, and it depending on the tool, it gets quite biased.
Yeah.
And it pulls from information sometimes that people just put up, and they intentionally put up inaccurate. How is that happening? I'm not as familiar with Magic School, and was it BRISC?
Magic School and BRISC. Yeah. So they spend a lot of time curating their large language models, which is kind of what the generative AI is focused on, right? It goes out and grabs all this information off the internet. You asked it a question, and what it's doing is kind of giving that information back as like a human would speak, right? That's that large language model. So BRISC and Magic School and these companies, I won't lump them all together, every AI company, but specifically these, they curate that so that as you're using that, you're not getting access to hopefully as much inaccurate information. But that is part of the learning that we need to do with the teachers, and the teachers need to do with their students, right? Like, in whole, whether you're a 4th grade, 5th grade, or a 12th grade teacher, students need to know that this stuff that gets spit out from AI needs to be double checked. It's not always accurate. You guys have used it before and thrown it up there and see what comes out. And at first glance, it looks awesome. And then you read it and you go, huh, like that's not accurate. So really that's the learning moment too that we need to have. So our big goal is, number one, you've got to steer really clear. All that, inappropriate stuff, we want to limit that. We don't want to have any of that stuff get in. But the accuracy, that's the teaching moment that our teachers, which are amazing teachers, are going to be able to do with the students, and to teach them about that starting at an early age, as opposed to just letting them figure it out on their own on their iPhone.
Okay, that's incredibly helpful. Then, and the reason I was saying that is I didn't know if we wanted to beef up paragraph 6 a little bit, but knowing that that's how we're addressing those. Again, I'm more concerned with how we plan to address these concerns rather than having to list every single concern on our board policy. So if we feel paragraph 6 suffices that, I just was a little worried paragraph 6 is just meaning, hey, you're gonna have access to technology, sign this, and parents don't actually read it and don't realize there's new AI components. Maybe we could look at a way, I'm assuming we would notify parents, here are some new tools that will be used in your classroom.
Correct, and that's one of the pieces. If the board does approve policy revisions, then one of our next steps is to communicate to parents the guidelines that we're sharing for student use, for teacher use. So we want to be explicit in, so that there's an understanding of it. And so, but the basis is the policy of the board. Guidelines follow. We would send those out, like I said, in February, so people are aware, and then that rolls into then our next fall cycle of the of acceptable use.
So, yeah, just one real simple one. I think most of this, over time, will continue to grow, will develop, we'll use it more and more. I could see in the higher grades using more of AI, maybe not as much in the lower. Do we have a general strategy and expectations, like at these grades, focus on ELA, maybe at the higher grades, we do this plus social studies, at some point math, at some point, is there, I'm just thinking in my head like a cone, or is it just kind of, hey, here's these great tools,
Yeah.
go forth and prosper?
Once again, that's the challenge. And I go back to my comment I made about Mr. O'Donnell. Teachers are going to get out of it what they put into it. We can do some basic professional development. The reality is we only have a short time to do that, in addition to all the other things we have to provide. So once again, going back to the ambassador idea, these are great things, tools, but we're not going to be able to force every teacher to use AI. And in some subject areas, it's going to be used much more than others. So we have some challenges out there, and we will continue to learn, and that's why we'll collect feedback, and we'll make changes, and we'll collect new tools, and we'll probably bring back new policies. But Dr. McDonald has something to say.
So yeah, I think we've thought about grade level a lot. We've had many discussions, and I think, obviously middle schools, high schools are using this, and we're comfortable with that. In elementary, I think we're looking at these tools for all teachers in all grades, but specifically for students at this point, we're really looking at 4th, 5th, and 6th on a very limited basis till we understand the tool and how they can use it. I think Magic School, for all the reasons you've heard, is a great way to use this. It's safe for everyone, but we're still, I don't think, ready to throw open the gates. Again, this is going to evolve greatly, and we may choose, with this reading tutor or something for a 3rd grader may evolve to be a great tool. We don't know yet, but I think right now we're upper elementary.
Sorry, thank you. It's a great opportunity. It's one of those great problems, as they say, but I think it's great that we're putting, jumping both feet in, moving forward. It'll be interesting to see, and I don't doubt that we'll modify some policies, we'll make some corrections here and there, but I'd rather be ahead of it than behind it, so.
And trustees, I would be greatly concerned if we could have answered that question, because we don't know, and that's where we're doing pilots, we're wanting to really learn, but we want to first put the guardrails in place for how we expect it to be used, because as you saw, there's a variability in that, and these policies and then these guidelines give us an ability to do that, and we know it'll evolve. We're happy to come back, and even, we may even do a follow-up study session in a year or so, just around, well, where are we at? What are we learning? What are students' perspectives, staff's perspectives? And so I'm actually glad that we have the question, but not the answer yet.
I'm happy that we're doing it. We're not hiring some outside consultant or, there's some magic book that we're going to pull. It's the right way to do it. So thank you. Thank you all.
Marty, did I hear you say earlier that you're looking at creating posters to help in the classrooms?
That's one of the things, once again, we have to teach the students the responsible way to use it and the inappropriate way. So that's just a thought that we had. Again, what I really want to do is work with our students. What's going to be the best way to get this
really like the idea of accountability posters in all the classrooms, because then you would have, the kids would have direction throughout the district. Everybody would know this is what's appropriate and this is what's not appropriate, because certainly the kids aren't going to be reading board policy. So I love the idea of the posters, so it keeps it front and center.
Front and
It's
center.
clearly posted in every classroom so that when the kids do break the rules, they knew they broke the rules.
Agreed. Thank you.
I apologize, but I want to go back to 5131.9. On the bottom of paragraph 4, what did we decide that we wanted? Because for me personally, board policy 6163.4, there's not the word cheating. I mean, I did a quick read. I don't think is listed. I'm concerned that maybe we need to make that more specific on the bottom of paragraph 4 for academic honesty. Can we put parentheses, list what we feel like is inappropriate, and then say, in addition, refer to our board policy 6163.4? Yeah, so we have both. Does that wording work?
It's just really preference to the board.
Yeah. Show me on 61663, what paragraph?
Okay, let me know if this meets the need. And I'm good either way. I'm just trying to keep it as clean. Second paragraph at the bottom, when it says, such instruction shall incorporate students' responsibilities regarding academic honesty, honoring copyright provisions. That's what I took as no cheating. But is there something, and then it goes into assessing the reliability and accuracy of information, protecting personal data, and the potential for biases and errors in artificially generated content.
Yeah.
But are you looking
I
for
hear
something in
you.
specific? Totally tell me
If you're reading really quickly, less wording of will not cheat, lie, plagiarize, or commit other acts of academic dishonesty. I just think it's going to be clearer for students and families.
Wait, where are you reading
I'm
that
on
at?
the paragraph 1
The very first
of
one.
5131. So what I'm suggesting is on paragraph 4 at the very end, after it says inappropriate use, parentheses, then we refer back to cheating, lying, plagiarizing, or committing other acts of academic dishonesty. And I'm fine to put both. In addition, you're welcome to refer to 6163, parentheses. I just think
see,
it
you want
needs
to
an
call it down.
additional-
Okay,
yeah.
see, I thought because it was up on that top that that would already apply. But I'm good calling it down too if you want. I do think it's important that we reference, though, the student use of technology, because that talks about not only the plagiarism, but it also talks about a few other areas that I think are inappropriate. But if you want to call that down, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just was assuming that because it was at the top of that same policy, it applied.
I think inappropriate use is a little vague and to be repeated right there. Can we include both? Is anybody, is that fine?
I guess my assumption in the fact that that line even exists is because it's referring to inappropriate use that is different than cheating, lying, plagiarizing, or committing other acts of academic dishonesty. Because if it's the same, then we could just delete that line and just use the other document, the other policy to cover the inappropriate use and not even refer to it here at all. Because we're really just focusing on academic honesty here.
I wonder, can Superintendent Stock clear something? Because how I read it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent Stock, is the top section like all academic honesty, not AI specific? Like we're talking in general, we expect XYZ.
Right.
And then the next section down under prohibited and permitted technology use, it then speaks specifically to technology. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I was assuming the line up there at top was no matter what resource you're using or what you are doing, there's an expectation you will not cheat, lie, plagiarize. So then the bottom section is essentially saying, now that we've made clear we don't support cheating, lying, plagiarizing, then let's now talk additional things that could go wrong using technology.
Correct. There is a general statement, and then we do address technology specifically, and then that last sentence really is an attempt to say, and if we didn't specifically list it, all things within that, because policies are that general direction guidance that the board's providing, and to have a policy, and that's where in some of these other areas you see when we start to list technology like MP3 players and CD players, you get outdated quickly. So the attempt of that last sentence there was to say, and if we didn't mention specifically anything inappropriate, because that may evolve, but
But it already says prohibited uses include but are not limited to.
Right. So again, this is really preference of the board. It is gonna have the same impact or effect. It just is, again, really preference of the board.
If, I guess the question would be, as superintendent, cabinet that's here tonight, really it's how is this interpreted? So I think what I'm hearing is there's desire from multiple board members to make clear that we expect students will not cheat, lie, plagiarize, or commit other acts of academic dishonesty. Do we need to call that out in that next paragraph? Because I'm totally fine either way. I hear you, I almost said Superintendent Price, President Price. I hear you, and do we need to call that out there to make clear that we mean that as well with AI and technology? Or is it clear to you that that first paragraph applies to everything, including AI and technology?
Or where it says primarily or solely for the completion of coursework as a student's original work, do we say, i.e., cheating, lying, plagiarizing? I just think these kind of policies are already, for a parent to go on and try to, make sense of it. If that last sentence doesn't add or change to the policies that we have in these two policies that we're toggling between. So if it doesn't enhance what is there or change it, then let's make it more straightforward. And maybe that is adding more descriptive language to what cheating, lying, plagiarizing is, but it does seem like it doesn't fit there. And would maybe cause, I think we all came away from it with different interpretations of what it is referring to.
So really, I think it's preference of the board. If any board members aren't comfortable, I would rather be more clear and conservative than not. I think for me, I would like at minimum something to the effect of a call out to 6163.4. I think we do that in other policies. I think that's standard practice that we reference other policies, because essentially we're saying I'm not going to insert the entire other policy here. I'm going to reference here to say when I say inappropriate use, this is what I mean. I feel that meets the need of inappropriate use above and beyond cheating, lying, plagiarizing, committing other acts of academic dishonesty, because it is an academic dishonesty piece. So to me, if it was just after that, this includes the inappropriate use of artificial intelligence, AI, comma, as, or however you typically say it, as referenced in 6163.4, as depicted in 6163.4. I feel like it solves that. I think then President Price, does it solve, though, your concern of being clear that students are not to cheat, lie, plagiarize, or commit other acts with technology as well?
Okay, plagiarism, yes, honoring copyright provisions. Assessing the reliability and accuracy of information. I'm just going on paragraph 2 on that policy. Protecting personal data, potential for biases. I don't think that addresses cheating, right? Well, no. Students' responsibilities. You're saying does 6163 address those specifically, and I don't think it does.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm meaning it addresses things above and beyond the cheating, lying, plagiarizing, because that's already called out on the top sentence.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's probably fine. Do you guys think it's fine, Marty? Superintendent Stock?
So I have an idea.
Regardless of how you cheat.
Why don't, so in 6163.4, it uses the term academic honesty in the second paragraph. So why don't we also then cross-reference the other board policy so that both of them connect to each other?
Yeah.
Okay, so if let me just make sure I, as your secretary, track what you've all said. So when this comes back, you're like, okay. So on that paragraph that says permitted use of technology, after that last AI, comma, as referenced in board policy 6163.4, period, then going over to 6163.4, that we would, and this is where I'll need a little help, where are we inserting the reference back to 51?
Second paragraph, third line from the bottom right after academic honesty.
Got it. And so we would then put in, as referenced in board policy 5131.9.
Yeah, Great idea, great
So
solution.
now we're linking them together. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think communication to the parents is going to be key on this, as we've talked about. You know, some parents are here and some parents are here with AI, and so the more we can communicate the work that we're doing, where we're at in the process, why we've come to this point, I think is going to be really key for our families. Thank you.
And trustee, just one more change that I've noted that I want to make sure that I'm tracking, and this is under 5131.9, and that is to strike the word however and start with a student with a disability. So there are 3 changes that'll be brought back on February 12th.
Did we take out as appropriate, and you already have that one in 2 paragraphs below that, about information acquired, the student's parent or guardian? Did we take out as
I thought we
appropriate?
decided to leave it.
Okay.
After further discussion.
President Price, we were anticipating sending out an all-district message on Thursday, the 13th, and then we'll also include it in that February newsletter for staff members and families, but also we'll do another reminder towards the end of this school year as well before summer break.
Perfect. Thank you so much. When families see that come through in August, the standard form, will there be any call out then as a reminder that we, as we sent earlier in the year?
We certainly can.
Yeah.
Look into doing that. We can highlight it. We can make sure that they're aware of it.
I just find that our families are so overloaded with information that if it's really important, we need to touch base a few times, so thank you.
Yeah, and everyone, as you read down through an acceptable use policy, which is great reading, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
You want to get to the point where you want to call that out. So we can
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Hannah Anderson, we are ready for you. Director of Innovation, School Programs, and Accountability. We would love to hear an update to the 2024 California dashboard.
Good evening again, President Price, trustees, Superintendent Stock. I am excited to share with you an update on the California dashboard that was released in November for the 2024 year. During this presentation, I'll provide an overview of the information found in the dashboard, share the performance of the Rocklin Unified School District and numerically significant student groups. Also share an analysis of how those have changed over time and provide next steps. The purpose of the California dashboard is that it supports districts and schools by providing information on specific indicators to identify strengths, weaknesses, areas that are needing improvement. It shares information about student groups. It allows a focus on continuous improvement, which is a change over many outdated years now, but how the state used to look at state accountability measures. This one has more of a continuous improvement outlook, and it helps educate educational partners, our community, our teachers, our parents, our school staff, our administrators about student progress and areas for focus. In the 2024 dashboard, there was a few new elements, as there have been the last few years. This was a full return to California's accountability system, which means that districts and schools can be identified based on all state measures for levels of assistance. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. We also have state indicators that are reflective of our science outcomes, and long-term English learner students are included on the dashboard for the first time ever. There was an earlier release, as well as we do have to, and that earlier release will continue to be pushed back each year. So this coming year, we'll hear more information by the middle of November, and by 2026, we anticipate getting information by the middle of October. Why that's important is that we tend to have very outdated data by the time the California dashboard comes out. We have given the state the information that's included in the California dashboard. We've given them all of that information through CalPADS in June and through our state assessments in April and May. So there really is no need for that great gap period. We also need to use this data when crafting our LCAP. We need to include all of the red indicators. Trustees saw that in the last LCAP that was approved. And each of our schools is also encouraged to use this in their school plans for student achievement. This next section shows each of the state indicators and performance for our district as well as student groups. Each of these slides show how numerically significant student groups perform on the indicator, and that is the colored box that you see with all the different student groups listed. On the left-hand side, the upper left-hand side, there's a box that shows the RUSD progress, and the lower portion shows how student groups changed over time. So it's a little different representation of the dashboard, and I found it easier to read in terms of how we could see listed which student groups are making more progress than others, which student groups have higher performance colors than others, and see it in one singular snapshot without having to click around to all the different pages, which you do need to do if you go onto the public site. So as a district, we continue to be in the high status area for English language arts. We did decline a small amount in the average distance from standard on the English language performance indicator. However, we had 8 student groups increase their progress or maintain their progress. We did have 7 decline. We did speak a little bit about this, and we'll continue to do so, that we have made some changes with our English language arts instruction, and anticipate that those that instructional shift will make a difference here on this indicator over many years. But as you can see, we do have a number of student groups that are falling in that medium performance level, and that low performance level, which is the orange.
And some of those aren't, like, some of those just didn't make the cut, right? The graph?
Yes,
'Cause
thank
the
you for
numbers don't
asking
line
that.
up.
Attachment 1, I tried to share how each one of these has a slightly different number of students that's included. Because in addition to all the indicators being different, the number of students that's included in all these indicators might be slightly different as well. So this one includes any students who took the English Language Arts CASP test last spring with Rocklin Unified. And that would be students that are in 3rd through 8th grade and grades 11. So the student number of student column on the far right-hand side, that is just the number of students who took the assessment. So you might see English Language Arts, those are the same, almost the same number of students took the math assessment, but English learner students who have been in the country for less than 1 year do not take the English Language Arts assessment, they do take the math assessment. So they're slightly different pieces of information, and that's why you see that student group number shifting on each performance indicator.
On the number of students, could those also be duplicative? Meaning, if there's a student that's an English learner and is also socioeconomically disadvantaged, are they showing up in both of those?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Question, since long-term English learners is a new designation on here, so what's the time period? And that just means that they have not been able to be reclassified as English proficient, right? Like, what does that population look like? And is that typical for students to take an extended period of time to go from just English learner to reclassified without becoming long-term English learner?
So long-term English learner is a new student group to us. And so a long-term English learner means that you have been an English learner, qualified as such, taken the summative English language proficiency assessment in California. You've done that for 7 years and you remain an English learner student. So you see that that number there is quite small, 36 in comparison to the others, right? Each one of those students is very important, but the number is smaller. That means that that is going to be students this year on this number that are in 8th grade and that are in 11th grade, because they can't have taken that assessment 7 times unless they are in 8th or 11th grade. And so on this indicator and the math indicator, that's particularly focusing on those 2 grade levels. Did that answer your question? Okay. Moving into the math indicator, we maintained in mathematics, we had an average distance from standard of 17.5 points above. This continues, as Trustee Counter pointed out earlier, we continue to outperform the state on all of the state measures. We did have 10 student groups increase or maintain performance. I want to call out here again, there are no student groups that are in the very low category. That is unusual in the math indicator, and so it's something Rocklin Unified should be very proud of. We do have 4 student groups that are in that high or very high status. However, we want to look particularly at those 3 student groups that are in that orange performance level. They all have a status, that means their 1-year status of being quite a number of points below that meeting standard threshold. And we also see that 2 of them are declining by pretty significant amounts. And so that's why we shared a report with trustees in November on our English learner students and the work that we're specifically doing on supporting them in their achievement, and the specific staff that we, through your leadership in the LCAP, have invested in specifically supporting them. And then we'll also talk a little bit more about our students in homelessness throughout the presentation.
Hannah, can I ask about that? So when it's comparing and it says, for example, the last one, homeless, it says minus 13.9. It's saying that the change is from 1 year to the next?
Yes.
So couldn't those be completely different people? I mean, like the category is homeless, so could it be 62 completely different homeless children than took the test the year before?
Thank you for asking this. It absolutely could be. In the case of Rocklin Unified, we have, I will follow up with this specific percentage, but we do have, I would say, a moderate amount of our students living in homelessness that are longtime Rocklin school district members. And they are, the definition of homelessness includes students who are doubled up for an indeterminate amount of time. They don't have their own regular fixed housing, but they may be doubled up with another family in the community, or they might be moving families in the community. It might also be non-regular fixed housing. So some of the families living in kind of more mobile type homes might qualify in this category. And so there's a broader definition of homelessness in the world of education than there is when we think about homelessness in the state of California. It's different here. And so I think that, what I meant by that is more like in a social setting, what we might think about it versus what the school district's definition is for who shows up in this student group. But we do have some level of transiency in this student group, as you can imagine, and that has been increasing over the last number of years. Although our total number of students in homelessness is going down, the variability in who those families are has been increasing.
The 4 student groups that just don't make are they the same 4 student groups? I'm assuming it's because of a low number, but we have 15 that we say student group stats, but then there's always 11 captured. So I'm just reading through it. Pacific Islander, we probably have like 4 groups that
American Indian,
we
Pacific
just don't.
Islander.
They have 1 or 2 people and they don't. But is it the same all the way through?
It is not, but in this particular case for the math and the ELA, it is. And they have, that means that there's less than 30.
Yeah, small land. Got it.
This is the first time science has been on the California dashboard. You see that it does not have color indicators, and that is because it is not used for accountability purposes. The law that governs what needs to be included in how we identify districts for state assistance, those are the only performance measures on the dashboard that will have that color coding performance level. And so science is not one of those, although it's a very important subject and a subject that we are accountable to teaching. It is not a subject that we are accountable for in terms of the state measures that identify us for assistance. This is an indicator where we're looking to make growth, as we had numerous in this, on this chart you can see all those Ds next to the change. That is student groups that declined in their distance from standard. And so although it doesn't have the same performance colors, we do have room to grow here in making progress with all of our student groups.
Can you mention again what grades that test is taken in?
Thank you. It's grades 5, 8, and it has historically been 11th. Last year we were trying out assessing 12th at Rocklin High School. So Rocklin High School included 11th and 12th. So less students. Moving on to our English Learner Progress Indicator. This, we continue to be in the high range for our English Learner Progress Indicator. This means that students either maintained a level 4 on that assessment that is only for English learner students, so they maintained the highest level you can get, or they grew by a level. And so if you look at that far right-hand bar, 2024, you add together the purple and that very slight blue line, you'll get that 57.3%. And so 57.3% of our English learner students in grades 1st through 12th made progress on that assessment, either grew by a whole level, which is exceptional, or maintain that level 4, which means as soon as they can meet the rest of the reclassification criteria, they move on and they are no longer an English learner student. The next two measures show our school climate measures, and so the first is suspension and the second is chronic absenteeism. We have an overall low suspension rate, and so on this indicator it's a reverse indicator. So before we were looking at green and we were saying that meant high, and on this one we're looking at green and that means low. And that's a good thing, right? We want to hold students accountable. We also want to make sure that we're teaching students all the skills they need to remain in the learning environment. But we overall have a low suspension rate and we continue to make progress in this area. The majority of our student groups declined. 11 student groups declined, 1 maintained, and 2 increased. Of note, you can see we have 3 student groups that are in the very high status, so that means they're in the red status, performance level, for this indicator. That is our African American student group, our students living in homelessness, and our long-term English learner student group. And so we'll speak a little bit more about this in a moment, but this is an area of significance to us that we have made great progress with many student groups to reduce suspensions and ensure they have those skills necessary to be in the classroom. We have work to do with these 3. In terms of the number of students that are included on this performance indicator, this one includes all students in the district in this indicator. For chronic absenteeism, we have made significant progress in chronic absenteeism as a district. We have 8.2% of our students chronically absent. I'll explain in a moment why this number is slightly different than the next slide. This state measure only includes TK through 8th grade students and does not include high school. So it's one of the state measures that only gets up to 8th grade. When we're doing our internal improvement measures, we're of course including high school students, but the idea is that high school already has 2 state indicators that are only for them. And so when the state was putting this together, they didn't want too many indicators that hit the high schools. So that's why this only goes to 8th. And so you can see here that we have the majority of our student groups made progress and declined. 3 student groups increased. We have almost all of our student groups in the what would be the medium, low, and very low status. We only have 1 student group that's in the very high status. And the particular issue here is that this particular student group was also in that very high status for suspension. And when you have a student group that is in very high status or very low, that red bar, for 2 or more state measures, it means you, as a district, would qualify for something called differentiated assistance, which does not come with additional funding or any kind of sources to do the improvement efforts. However, it does come with the opportunity to work with our county partners and take a deep dive into our data and identify what are some of the barriers that are causing some of the root causes for why this student group is in that very high status for 2 state indicators, so that we can ensure that the improvement efforts that we have undergone in the district are targeted towards the correct actions. So this is a progress check on a attendance improvement that's shared with you in August. We have a revised baseline because we did receive a waiver for that 1 day of emergency school closure at some of the schools, so it did increase our attendance rate for last year. This attendance rate does not include students who, only includes students who are currently going to Rocklin Unified Schools, and the reason for that, I'm sorry, I did not say that correctly. This only includes our school programs, not students that are participating in our county programs or our non-public schools. The reason for that, for this improvement measure, is that we are doing the work within our school settings, and we wanted to make sure that we included only the students that we had direct impact over changing their outcome. So, so far this year, we have a current attendance rate of 96.19%. We had aimed this year at making 1%'s worth of growth. We are about 30%, 3/10 basically away from meeting that 30%. The reason why I've got a little sideways thumbs up is that any attendance rate over 96% is incredible and something we should absolutely celebrate and be very excited by. We had a lofty goal of getting all the way to another whole % of attendance improvement, and so I'm still giving us in that thumbs up category. We are doing great work. Our schools are just working so hard to continue to increase attendance. We're not gonna hit that 1% goal, but it's still something that we should feel very proud of, and anything over 96% is incredible. In terms of decreasing chronic absenteeism, we started off the year with all of our students at last year's rate was 9.7%. We aimed to make a 2% decrease. We are under that now. We are at 7.4%. And so that is absolutely something to celebrate. And I will say, some of my colleagues said, I think that goal's too high. And I said, I don't think so. And one of the areas is that if we get under 5%, eventually we move into the blue performance level on this. And so even this rate would still have us in the green next year, and I think that we can continue to make progress in this area. More exciting than making progress on this means students are in school, and that has an impact on all the state indicators, right? Is that more students coming to school every single day makes progress across the board. These next 2 indicators are end of system measures for Rocklin Unified, and something we should feel very proud of. Our graduation rate and then our college and career indicator show us a reflection of not just what's happening at our high schools, but what's happening across all of our elementary, middle, and high schools in the district. We have the highest graduation rate in the region, something to feel very proud of. It's a huge accomplishment with 96.6% of students graduating. This percent increased. We had 10 student groups increase or maintain. We have 0 student groups that are in the red, yellow, or orange in this indicator. That shows a significant decline in outcome gaps, and this is something we should all celebrate. College and career indicator is another end of system indicator. We have continued and had great increase in this area with just over 9% We have almost 72% of students prepared in terms of the college and career measures, of which there are many ways that you can achieve on this indicator, including state assessments, but also dual enrollment, also A through G pathways. So all of the different opportunities that you have to show your well-roundedness as a student in high school, including AP tests, make their way into this indicator. We do still have some performance gaps here, but even those were in the increased area, that they may still be in that yellow performance level, but all of those 3 student groups increased over the prior year. I've shared a lot of this analysis of strength and performance gaps throughout the presentation, so I'll go quickly here, but just again to highlight that we're the highest graduation rate in the region. Last year, our chronic absenteeism dropped again by another 4.2%, and that means that more students are here attending school, something to be very proud of. Analysis of our gaps is that we have gaps present in all 4 of the state indicators. These are areas that we'll address and I'll share more with trustees about during upcoming LCAP presentations. They're areas that we look at very closely in our LCAP advisory committees and think about what are actions that we can implement that specifically will work to close these gaps. And then as shared earlier, that because of our students in homelessness receiving that red indicator in 2 state indicators, that red performance level in 2 state indicators, we will qualify for differentiated assistance. Yes, so that is, you took me right here to that next step slide. Thank you so much. We are gonna work with Placer County Office of Education, that 3rd bullet point there, to engage in a continuous improvement process, including further analyzing student outcome data, identifying root causes, and potential change ideas. I heard it referred to the other day as like a nice warm hug, that they wrap around us and help us out. And so we're looking forward to that. We have a continuous improvement team. We'll have the opportunity to work with our county partners. And it's intended to be where we can work together to come up with change ideas. And those will be brought back to trustees at a later date. Okay. And additional next steps, continue to implement LCAP actions and sustain growth. And we will update the board on progress to address areas of need during upcoming board meetings. And last step would be to continue to share progress of the dashboard with our educational partners and district and site level, through district and site level communication. And with that, I am available for any other questions.
I'm just not familiar with the J13 waiver. Can you tell us about that on slide 11?
Yes. So would you actually like to share about that, Deputy Superintendent Stahlheber? Sure.
Experience an unexpected school closure or material decrease, we have an opportunity to submit a J13A waiver to the state, and then they would waive that. We would get back the credit, or we would reduce our divisor if it's a closed day. If it's material decrease, we would use the average of either a week in October or May, whichever the highest we get to choose.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah. Great.
And then it updates which is a good thing.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I have a question about the English language arts and mathematics, for these test scores that kind of indicate where students are at with their learning. How do these scores correlate to their actual academic performance at school? So if a student scores on the test in, the yellow or orange, is that pretty consistently correlated with how they're performing and the grades they're getting?
There are a lot of variables on how students perform on state measures. One of the pieces is that it's a snapshot, a point in time. It's a one-day assessment, and so for some students, that one way of showing their knowledge isn't the way that they show their knowledge. We do have done a crosswalk of grades at the high school to how students performed on this assessment. We were curious about a year ago of, you know, is it students that are taking classes that are above what this assessment is testing them on? How are they doing on this assessment? And what was interesting is we found, you know, a whole bunch of students in Integrated 3 were getting A's in the classroom and weren't showing everything that they know on this assessment. You know, and so we were able to do some improvement work there and say, you can help our school shine by showing us that you actually know this content in this format on this assessment. And so just kind of helping with that buy-in piece. As far as, you know, if students are in the not met or nearly met category on the CASP assessment, you typically do see that translate into the classroom. I can't speak to percentages on that, but you would see that a student, for example, in 3rd grade who's in the not met category in reading is also a student who's receiving a standard-based report card score of a 1, not meeting standards, or a 2, approaching standards.
Okay.
That probably does not apply to every single student.
Definitely,
Okay.
right. Thank you. I also was wondering, you know, in looking at particularly socioeconomically disadvantaged and homeless, thinking about the ELOP that we have now going that's fairly new, right? Do you think that we will be able to track participation in that program over years and try to correlate it to see if there's a change? Because I know extra time to study and get support has been something that in the LCAP sessions has been a common theme that parents bring up.
Yes, so thanks to the investment of the board in our data analytics system, we actually have the ability to identify those students in our system that are participating in the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program and see how those students in particular are doing on any of these state measures. We also will be coming up in our mid-year review of the LCAP next month, an update for trustees on the tutoring program that you more heavily invested in this year, and some of the pilot programs we've tried, and how those are going, and some of the progress we're making. And those are particular to those student groups you just mentioned.
Great, thank you. And then, so we will get some information on interventions for the suspension numbers in the future, you said, at a future meeting?
Yes, I was particularly talking to the homeless student group, but we can expand that and provide more context to trustees on any of the students in the red indicator.
That would be great, yeah. Okay. Thank you. But yes, lots of positives here. Thank you so much for all of that information.
I guess similar question. Given that we have similar populations that aren't achieving, you know, performing at the right levels, whether it be ELA, math, et cetera, do we have differentiated strategies for those populations as opposed to the ones that are? I mean, there's a different way of teaching math for this group versus that group, or English, or is it just more of the like the personal connection and trying to make a one-on-one improvement?
Some of the state indicators do warrant a different instructional method, and some of the student groups are not necessarily focused on in terms of teaching in a different way. What we do make sure of is that in any of our intervention programs, we are prioritizing the enrollment of student group, of students that are identified in student groups that need additional support. For example, our socioeconomically disadvantaged student group, we prioritize the enrollment of those students into the interventions, and once the students that need the interventions the most are prioritized for those interventions, then other students can fill up remaining seats.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you so much. That was perfect. A lot of great information there and a lot to celebrate for sure. Item 12.1, our board bylaws require 2 trustees to place an item on the agenda. Trustees, do you have any items to discuss for consideration on the pending agenda? Seeing none, the meeting is now adjourned to closed session.